Chapter 954. Are you very close to Gu'er? Old Madame Hua asked. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and glanced at Xiao Luqing calmly. I don't know. She knew many people in the Qingchong Computing Center. Wasn't Hong Chongjin, one of their directors, hospitalized because of her anger? Old Madame Hua didn't say anything until someone came in late. Miss Xia. Cheng Zihuai was dressed in decent clothes and looked handsome, attracting the attention of many people. Student Cheng. Xiao Luqing's eyes lit up. She didn't expect Hong Chongjin's student to look like this. This is a member of the Qingchong Computing Center? Old Madame Wen asked. Cheng Zihuai turned around and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. I'm Cheng Zihuai from the Qingchong Computing Center. I'm also a freshman at Yin University. Only a freshman? Everyone was shocked. The person who could solve such a question was only a freshman? I'm not busy with my studies in the third year of high school, so I had the chance to get to know teacher Hong Chongjin. Cheng Zihuai's tone was cold, but he was obviously confident in his ability. To be able to say that he wasn't busy with his studies in the third year of high school, he was definitely a top student. Then, Cheng Zihuai didn't expect to see Bei Yunj when he turned around. You're here too? Cheng Zihuai inexplicably felt a ball of anger in his chest. He hated the person in front of him, and had an inexplicable emotion. He hadn't seen Bei Yunj for so long, and her appearance had clearly become more unfamiliar, but it was as if no matter what, she could still affect his heart. Bei Yunj only looked at him indifferently, and raised her eyebrows slightly without saying anything. This made Xiao Luqing frown. Why was there something wrong with the news? Didn't they say that Bei Yunj had actually liked Cheng Zihuai for a long time? But Bei Yunj didn't seem like someone she liked at all. Old Madame Hua is indeed kind. No wonder student Pei thinks that as long as she has someone to rely on, she can be impudent. Cheng Zihuai pursed his lips and suddenly mocked her. Everyone present could tell that there was a grudge between Cheng Zihuai and Bei Yunj. What are you saying, student Cheng? Why do you have to say this in front of old Madame Hua? Xiao Luqing seemed to be trying to stop the fight, but her eyes were gloating. Cheng Zihuai sneered. You'll have to ask Miss Pei. She was really amazing to be able to force Qin Youjiao out of the country after returning to the Qin family for 2 years. Miss Pei is really someone who cannot tolerate sand in her eyes. After saying this, everyone on the scene sighed, as if they had heard some incredible gossip. So that fake daughter was forced to leave. Thousands of thoughts ran through everyone's mind, and they also felt that this was very likely. After all, Qin Youjiao was an outstanding socialite in the industry back then, but this real young lady, at best he was just lucky to have been reincarnated. With such a real daughter who couldn't compare to a fake daughter in any way, the Qin family was like a joke. Bei Yunj glanced at him unhurriedly and suddenly sneered. She called out slowly, Eris. A large Alaskan dog ran down quickly from upstairs, and only went to Bei Yunj's side. Cheng Zihuai subconsciously took a step back. Howl. Eris circled around Bei Yunj and barked excitedly. Bei Yunj smirked. Good child, be quiet. Eris really stopped barking. He only tilted his head and kept rolling and rubbing against Bei Yunj's legs. At this moment, Bei Yunj said slowly, Student Cheng, have you learned it? When someone says to be quiet, you should at least shut up. P.S. Including the extra chapters mentioned yesterday, there are 3 more chapters. Our monthly votes have been a little low recently. If there are more votes, continue to add more. Chapter 955. As soon as she finished speaking, the atmosphere in the room froze. Cheng Zihuai's face darkened. Was Bei Yunj comparing him to a dog? You. Before Cheng Zihuai could say anything, Xiao Luqing noticed old Madame Hua's displeasure and immediately smiled. In our opinion, student Cheng is very talented. I wonder if student Cheng has ever thought of joining the group's research team? These words were meant to flatter Cheng Zihuai, and she also hoped that old Madame Hua would not be too protective of Cheng Zihuai. Cheng Zihuai regained his composure, but his tone was cold and mocking. Of course. However, the Qingchong Computing Center is on good terms with the Wen family, so I don't think there's any other choice. Everyone knew in their hearts that he had chosen the Wen family. The teacher said that he would help me win Higgins's project this time. When Cheng Zihuai said this, his gaze swept over Bei Yunj with a hint of mockery. However, Miss Pei is so resourceful. Perhaps you can also try these questions. Cheng Zihuai had long heard that Bei Yunj had dropped out of school for no reason. And for more than half a year, he had been working hard in the computing center day after day. He was no longer on the same level as Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj just sneered and sat on the sofa to tease a lass. Then, Zihuai, quickly send these questions up. Xiao Luqing glanced at Bei Yunj and could not help but smile as she said to Cheng Zihuai. Cheng Zihuai heard this and quickly sent the content up. Hong Chongjin was also involved in this. However, to his surprise, Nieyu sent him a voice message. Xiao Luqing could not wait to open it. Everyone heard it clearly. Her smile gradually stiffened. Miss Xia, I think you might have misunderstood. This is just a simple test foundation. Marcus's request is all correct. Only students in school need to look at the scores, and real research cannot tolerate any mistakes. In an instant, Cheng Zihuai's calm face also disintegrated, and his expression instantly turned ugly. What? That test had to be all correct. Suddenly, Cheng Zihuai heard a soft sneer. He quickly turned around and gritted his teeth. Bei Yunj. Student Cheng, if you can't do it, isn't there still an old one? Bei Yunj was playing leisurely, but he was still arrogant. Old Madam Hua. Could the old Yunj was talking about Bihang Chongjin? Everyone present suspected that Cheng Zihuai would explode on the spot, but fortunately he endured it. Bei Yunj, if you are really that capable, then you should help the Hua Corporation win this project. Cheng Zihuai sneered. If he couldn't do it, then Bei Yunj was even more unworthy. Xiao Luqing agreed. Yes, Miss Pei and Zihuai were in the same high school and are about the same age. Since Miss Pei dared to quit school and felt that there was nothing to learn, there should be no problem with the foundation test, right? Actually, Cheng Zihuai didn't finish the paper by himself. Hong Chongjin even helped him a little. After removing the water, Cheng Zihuai's accuracy was only about 50%. Bei Yunj glanced at the unread messages and only smirked casually. It doesn't seem fair. These words made Xiao Luqing think that Bei Yunj was afraid. For Miss Pei to be valued so highly by the Hua Corporation, she must be extremely talented. We are also looking forward to Miss Pei's performance. Xiao Luqing was intriguing. Since she had already said this, if Bei Yunj didn't agree, he would be mocked by the crowd. End of this chapter. Chapter 956. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and scanned her surroundings. She glanced at Wen Jiawan, who was trying. Wen Jiawan, can you lend me your computer for a while? Wen Jiawan was stunned for a moment before she handed the computer to Bei Yunj. This computer belonged to Wen Huai. The others looked at Bei Yunj and did not know what she was up to. Was she really going to try this test? Xiao Luqing's eyes were filled with ridicule. A student whose grades were so bad that she could repeat a year wanted to solve Higgins's test. She was simply dreaming. Miss Pei, do you think you're better than a professional from the computing center like Zihuai? Xiao Luqing looked at Bei Yunj, who kept typing on the keyboard, and burst out laughing as if she was joking. The people around felt that Bei Yunj was deliberately flattering herself. Me? Of course I'm better. Bei Yunj curled her lips and said lazily, her eyes arrogant and presumptuous. Cheng Zihuai subconsciously looked at her coldly, but he did not have time to mock her. Bei Yunj returned the computer to Wen Jiawan. Thank you. It had only been about 10 minutes. How could she solve it so quickly? Xiao Luqing could not help but cover her mouth and snicker. Miss Pei can't solve it and has given up? The others were also discussing softly. Suddenly, old Madam Wen laughed. Old Madam Hua indeed dotes on her grandson, so much so that she doesn't have any requests. Old Madam Hua was about to say something when Xiao Luqing's phone suddenly vibrated. When Xiao Luqing picked up the call, she heard Nieyu's voice. Congratulations, you've passed the test. I wonder which company's team made this test? Instantly, Xiao Luqing's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. What did you say? Nieyu frowned. Mr. Marcus just saw it and felt that these questions were solved very cleverly. He wants to know which team it is. Everyone present heard it clearly. Cheng Zihuai clenched his fists and his pupils constricted. He subconsciously looked at Bei Yunj. How was this possible? And Mr. Nya, is it possible that these questions were leaked? As soon as Xia Luqing asked this question, old Madame Hua's gaze turned cold. She completely disliked this woman. How dare they target Bei Yunj in the Hua family? The other party seemed to be silent for a long time before saying in a low voice, "These questions were set by Mr. Marcus. I can leak them, but no one can." "I'm sorry, Mr. Nya. I didn't mean that." But Xia Luqing's face turned red. She happened to look at Bei Yunj, who was smiling faintly. She gritted her teeth and said, "It's the Hua Group's research team. Can I speak to her on the phone?" Nya could not help but ask. Marcus had said that although these questions were the basics, but even he might not be able to think of the solution to this answer sheet. Xia Luqing took a deep breath, but her fingernails had already sunk into her flesh. She walked in front of Bei Yunj and smiled as if nothing had happened, but she was still gritting her teeth. If Miss Pei asked someone else to do it, even if she won this project, she would be exposed. With that said, Xia Luqing turned on the speakerphone. "Hello, may I know who you are?" "Bei Yunj," she said lazily. When the other party heard the name, she seemed to fall into a long silence. Nieyu's mood instantly reached a freezing point. She put on a fake smile and asked, "Why did you do this question?" Was the research not enough for her to play with? She was still playing with them now. For the first time, President Nye wanted to beat his boss. P.S. Ahem, it's late but it's here. There's one more chapter. End of this chapter. Chapter 957. Do you think the Hua Corporation still has this chance? Bei Yunj rested her head on one hand and asked with curved eyes. Nye wanted to curse. Could she be any more shameless than getting in through the back door openly? Didn't they agree to be fair and just? He took a deep breath and hung up the phone. Then, Bei Yunj's phone rang. She glanced at the familiar number and immediately hung up. However, the owner of the phone number continued to call crazily. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and went upstairs with her phone. She did not forget to say calmly, "Grandma, he said that this project is ours." Old Madame Ho was speechless. Everyone was speechless. For some reason, they felt that President Nye knew Bei Yunj. They also felt that the identity of the girl in front of them was not that simple. Meanwhile, Cheng Zihuai stood where he was and looked at Bei Yunj, who did not even look at him when she went upstairs. He clenched his fists and his face turned green. He felt his face burning. How did Bei Yunj get everything right? Zihuai, can't you tell? Bei Yunj and President Nye's relationship is not ordinary, Xia Luqing said thoughtfully. Then can we get this project? Cheng Zihuai asked. Xia Luqing's face stiffened. Then she gritted her teeth and sneered. Zihuai, Higgins has more than one project this year. Just wait and see. After Xia Luqing and Cheng Zihuai left, Wen Jiuan was deep in thought. Until Wen Huai interrupted her thoughts. Sister, where's my computer? Here. Wen Jiuan returned the computer to him. But suddenly, Wen Huai immediately stood up, giving Wen Jiuan a fright. Sister, this question, you did this question. Wen Huai asked in disbelief. Wen Jiuan asked instinctively, what question? It's a question left behind by our school's professor. I've been trying to solve it for half a semester, but I still can't solve it. Someone actually solved it. Wen Jiuan paused. She remembered that when she gave it to Bei Yunj, it seemed to be blank. At this moment, Wen Huai couldn't wait to take a picture and send it to the professor and class group. In an instant, it caused an uproar in the class group, as well as the attention of the professors. Wen Huai went out to answer the call. When he heard the professor's praise, he couldn't hide his excitement. At the same time, he was also asking him who came up with the idea of solving the problem. After the chat ended, Wen Huai could not wait to hold Wen Jiuan's hand. Sister, you're amazing. It wasn't me. Someone else solved it. Wen Jiuan retracted her gaze. Someone else? Wen Huai was stunned. Wen Jiuan suddenly thought of something. Do you know Bei Yunj? Bei Yunj? I don't know, but it sounds a little familiar, Wen Huai said hesitantly. Then I don't think so. Wen Jiuan turned around and asked. She was really crazy. She almost suspected that Bei Yunj was the teaching assistant of Yin University's junior class, Upstairs. What's wrong? Bei Yunj drank water and sat on the carpet, looking at the rabbit lantern that Mo had sent her last time. You're going through the back door and breaking the rules, Nyeyu said impartially. Yes, in order to make my elders happy, I can only do this. Pei Qinghan smiled lazily. Nyeyu was speechless. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. Remember to send the contract to the Hua Corporation. Bei Yunj did not forget to remind him at the end. However, after hanging up, Bei Yunj lowered her eyes and saw red spots on her body. She was allergic again. End of chapter. Chapter 958. Bei Yunj took out the box of allergy medicine from the drawer. After thinking for a moment, she took out 2 more pills and drank them with water. Although Cui Hingchuan had called her and told her that the chances of her relapse were very low, and that she shouldn't take the medicine anymore. Perhaps if he ate too much, the side effects would be more than just allergies. However, Bei Yunj did not want to cause any trouble for the Hua family, especially at such an important occasion like old Madam's birthday banquet tomorrow. That night, Bei Yunj also went to bed early. In the bar. Master Du, aren't you going to drink more? The man who had just returned to China held a wine glass and smiled. Suyu, is this your first day meeting Master Du? Whenever he drinks a little wine he starts to ignore people. Yu Hanran shook his head. On the other hand, Seng Su remembered the previous drinking contest between Yu Hanran and Bei Yunj. He never dared to tell Yu Hanran that he was actually beaten up by Master Du after he got drunk that time. You guys continue drinking, this meal is on me. I'll head back first. Huashidu held a cigarette between his fingers and spoke in a light and lazy tone. Going back just like that? See, you found it strange. In the past, when he returned to the old residence to stay, Huashidu was most likely unwilling to go back early. After all, old Madame Hua's desire to have a grandson had never stopped. Suyu, you've been abroad for too long. You still don't know what kind of vixen Master Du has at home. After saying this, Huashida glanced at him indifferently. Yu Hanran immediately changed his words. Ancestor, I raised a little ancestor. Oh. Suyu's interest was immediately piqued. He didn't expect such a thing to happen. Master Du, when are you going to bring her out for a look? Take a look? However, she did not expect the man to nonchalantly put out the cigarette in his hand. His laziness faded as he looked up and asked, Why? Is it for you to see? Suyu. Did he step on a minefield? Suyu and Huashidu had known each other for so many years, but he had never expected that the person Yu Hanran mentioned would have such weight in Huashida's heart. He did not look like the Huashidu of the past at all. He looked like he had no desires. For the first time in more than 20 years, she realized that Huashidu was also possessive. You guys continue playing. Huashidu left with his coat after saying that. Suyu couldn't help but turn his head. Old Han, what's the situation with Master Du's wife? What's the situation? Suyu, listen to me. Don't provoke the one from Master Du's family. Stay as far away from her as possible. In this regard, Yu Hanran was someone who had suffered before. Suyu hesitated. Is her character not good? Yu Hanran smiled. You can't say that about her. Then he continued. It's just that I don't often interact with people. Suyu. This evaluation didn't sound right no matter how he listened to it. After returning to the old house, the lights downstairs were already off. Huashida's night vision was quite good. He did not turn on the lights and walked slowly to the second floor. However, he kept feeling that someone was secretly watching him. But when he turned around, he didn't see anyone. Huashidu returned to the bedroom. He had just finished showering and was walking to the table to pick up a book when he suddenly heard movement at the door. The man casually glanced to the side and saw the door quietly open, revealing a head. He looked at the little girl in front of him sizing up his room, and couldn't help but laugh in a low voice. It was so deep and magnetic that it made one's ears burn. Child, did you come to my room to steal something? Not long after, Huashida noticed that the little girl in front of him didn't seem to be acting normally. P.S. Thank you children for voting for Master Pei. He is still #1 on the monthly votes list. Are there any more children who want to vote for him? Pinch face. Chapter 959. She was also holding a brown teddy bear that was usually not very favored. Bae Yunja's usual carefree appearance was different. Her clear eyes were emotionless. She only raised her head and looked straight at the half-naked man. The man's figure was very good. His perfect abs and strong waist, as well as his faintly discernible Apollo's belt, almost made people blush. After Huashidu felt Bae Yunj sizing him up, he casually pulled off a short-sleeved shirt and put it on. "Aren't you going back to sleep?" As soon as he finished speaking, Bae Yunj suddenly pushed open the door, locked it from the inside and walked in. Even Huashidu did not expect this series of actions. The next moment he saw Bae Yunj walking straight towards him. She suddenly reached out and hugged his strong waist tightly. The man felt her furry head rubbing against his chest and his Adam's apple tightened. When he sorted out his emotions, his sexy Adam's apple bobbed, but his eyes turned dark. Yunyun. The little girl in front of him was indeed not in the right state. Bae Yunj did not let go or answer Hoshida's question. She seemed to be sleepwalking. However, he had never seen the little girl in such a state before. The man suddenly asked casually, "Do you want to eat fruit?" The atmosphere was silent for a long time. Just when Hoshidu thought that Bae Yunj was unconscious, he heard her speak again. "No." Hoshidu curled his lips. His pale-colored eyes were long and beautiful. Under the light, it was a reflection of day and night. He chuckled softly. His magnetic and hoarse voice was seductive as he dragged out the last syllable. "Does Yunyun like candy or little bears?" If it were any other time, Bae Yunj would definitely stay away from these fluffy toys and scoff at them. But at this moment, the girl said honestly, "Little bears." The smile on the man's lips deepened. He slowly reached out and tapped her head casually. "Then do you like little bears or big brothers?" Suddenly, the atmosphere fell silent. Bae Yunj glanced at Hoshidu. She was a little hesitant, as if it was difficult for her to make a choice. This reaction was also unexpected in the man's eyes. Hoshidu raised his eyebrows and laughed in anger. He did not expect that he could not compare to a stupid bear. He pinched her face punitively. "What do you mean, Yunyun? Did I dote on you for nothing?" Bae Yunj immediately said, "I like Big Brother." "Little liar." Hoshidu smirked. "You even came over to take advantage of me when you were sleepwalking, huh?" The little girl in front of him looked different from usual, and was indeed cute, but Hoshidu was worried about Bae Yunj's safety. "Go back to your room and sleep?" After Hoshidu asked, Bae Yunj immediately let go of his hand and looked at him with dissatisfaction. The man chuckled softly. He took the girl's hand and squatted down. His eyes were extremely dark, hiding all the light, but it made people's hearts beat faster. His low voice was ostentatious and seductive. "Yunyun, do you like me that much?" The little girl who was sleepwalking was conscious, but she could not read the emotions in the man's eyes. She also squatted down and placed her hands on her knees. She looked extremely obedient, which was a huge contrast to her usual appearance. "Brother, I'll sleep with you." The man's gaze instantly darkened and became difficult to distinguish. The mole on his Adam's apple moved slightly, making people blush and their hearts beat faster. However, the culprit was looking at him seriously and quietly waiting for his reply. Chapter 960. Half an hour later, Hoshido looked at the girl sleeping on his bed, then casually retracted his gaze and walked to her side. After coaxing the girl to sleep first, he went to take a shower. However, he did not expect that when he came out, the girl seemed to have fallen asleep. He sat by the bed and caressed the girl's cheek with the back of his slender fingers. It was gentle and ambiguous, and his eyes were half dark. His deep voice was still casual. "Child, is there anything you don't want others to know?" The girl on the bed had her eyes closed. Her exquisite and bright eyes had become more docile. Hoshidu gently tidied the black hair by her ear, took a thin blanket, and covered her with it. Then he carefully carried her up. At night, the man carried the girl in his arms and walked through the corridor to another bedroom. Only a small night light was turned on inside. Outside the bed, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. A corner of the dark branches was revealed, and everything was lonely. Hoshidu gently placed her on the bed and tidied up the blanket. From the corner of his eye, He saw the medicine on the bedside table. One box was filled with medicine that was not properly packaged. The other box was filled with allergy medicine. The man's eyes darkened. He held the box of medicine that was not properly packaged and noticed the logo at the bottom of the back. Yincheng Pharmaceutical Research Institute. Soon, Huashidu put down the medicine and walked to the balcony to make a call. If Bai Yunj heard it, she would realize that Huashidu was contacting Zhong Shenglin. Mr. Hua, what happened? Zhong Shenglin was about to sleep when he received a call from Huashidu. It was a little strange. What medicine did you prescribe for her? Huashidu asked straightforwardly. It's an inhibitory psychotropic medicine jointly developed by the Psychological Research Institute and Yuncheng Pharmaceutical Research Institute. After Zhong Shenglin finished speaking, he reacted. That's not right. Guer is allergic to that medicine. She shouldn't be taking this medicine anymore. Allergic? Huashidu also remembered that Bai Yunj had a high fever and was hospitalized for allergies. Yes, she only discovered her allergy a while ago. This girl should have stopped by now. Don't worry. Zhong Shenglin responded. Zhong Shenglin had actually told Huashidu many things, but Bai Yunj did not know yet. She's still taking the medicine. Huashidu's eyes were so dark that they couldn't be seen clearly, and his voice was emotionless. Has she been in a bad condition recently? It's not that bad. Zhong Shenglin was also puzzled. Previously, when her condition was unstable, I didn't see her insist on taking this medicine. Why are you still taking this medicine when you know that you're allergic? As soon as he finished speaking, Huashidu's index finger moved slightly, as if he knew the reason. It happened to be old Madam's birthday banquet in a few days. Mr. Hua? Mr. Hua? Zhong Shenglin shouted a few times before Huashidu came back to his senses. His pale-colored eyes glanced at the girl behind the glass door. It's fine now. If possible, I hope Elder Zhong can send me a copy of Union's physical test data in all aspects. After hanging up the phone, the man smoked a cigarette on the balcony. When the smell of smoke dissipated from his body, he entered the bedroom. Huashidu picked up the medicine on the table and glanced at Bai Yunj. He subconsciously sat over and pinched the little girl's face as if he was punishing her. Only then did he get rid of his irritable and funny anger. At the same time, his heart inevitably ached. What kind of environment did a girl have to grow up in to have a shadow of sensitivity and inferiority in the depths of her heart, no matter how outstanding and powerful she was? P.S. There's still a sugar that hasn't been written yet. Let me straighten out the plot first. End of this chapter. Chapter 961. The man took the medicine and was about to close the bedroom door and leave when he suddenly saw Alaskan sitting on the spot in a daze, looking at him with its head tilted. Suddenly, the man curled his lips and slowly opened the medicine box in his hand. When Alaskan saw this, it was instantly agitated. It lowered its voice and whimpered, looking very impatient. It did not doubt human nature at all. Huashidu handed the medicine box to Alaskan and patted its head. He smiled lazily and said, "Bite this tomorrow and let sister play with you." Alaskan whimpered and rubbed against Huashidu's pants before biting the medicine box. The next day, Bai Yunj woke up and did not notice anything strange. If she had to say that something was wrong, it would be that the medicine on the table was gone. She moved her eyebrows and realized that the door was not closed last night. After going downstairs, Bai Yunj saw Huashidu eating and sitting at the side as if nothing had happened. "Brother." Huashidu replied unhurriedly, Did you enter my room last night?" Bai Yunj probed. However, Bai Yunj seemed to have slept very soundly last night and did not feel anything. Huashidu only glanced at her indifferently and asked slowly, "What's wrong?" "I think I lost something," Bai Yunj said. "What is it?" After Huashidu asked this, Bai Yunj instantly fell silent. She had not told Huashidu about this. "It's not anything important." Bai Yunj held a spoon and scooped the porridge. However, she still felt that only Huashidu would enter her room. Just as Bai Yunj's thoughts were running wild, suddenly, something fluffy rubbed against the side of her leg. She looked down and saw that it was Alaskan. The thing it was biting on looked very familiar. It was her medicine box. At this moment, Alaskan still wanted its owner to play with it, and wagged its tail happily. Bae-yunj. All right, the culprit had appeared. What is Alaskan biting in its mouth? Hwashidu asked calmly. Before he could look over, Bae-yunj quickly snatched the medicine box from Alyssa's mouth and smiled. There's something dirty outside. Hwashidu did not expose her. He only raised his eyebrows lightly. Is that so? Bae-yunj nodded in response. She maintained a smile on her face and did not notice the faint smile on the man's face. Afternoon. Bae-yunj deducted half of the snacks in Alyssa on the grounds that it was healthy to lose weight. Although Emomo's heart ached, he also felt that Alyssa had gained a lot of weight after he brought him home. Last time, the doctor had said that if Alyssa continued to gain weight, her lifespan would decrease. He waited until nightfall. Hwashidu walked to the long corridor and gave the listless Alyssa some snacks. Your master's temper isn't small either. Hwashidu combed Alaskan's fur. Alaskan seemed to be able to understand and whined pitifully. It didn't know that it was taking the blame for this man. At night, the birthday banquet was exceptionally lively. Bae-yunj stood on the balcony on the second floor. Suddenly, she heard hurried footsteps. Mr. Hua. Bae-yunj's eyebrows moved and she looked inside. Butler, are you looking for brother? The butler was stunned for a moment, and could not hide the anxiety in his voice. Yes. Those people are really here again, and want to take little master away. What should we do? Those people. Bae-yunj's eyes moved. End of this chapter. Chapter 962. Brother went out to answer a call. If you have anything to say, tell me. Bae-yunj threw the wine can into the trash can. Miss Pei, I'm not sure about the details. I only know that it seems to be someone from the Tang family in Continent K. Continent K? Bae-yunj knew about the existence of this continent. There were many supranational organizations in it, and they were not bound by any country. Even the Indomitable Music Alliance was established in Continent K. Where's MOMO? Bae-yunj walked downstairs and asked unhurriedly. Miss, the people in Continent K are not to be trifled with. You'd better. Before the butler could finish, she interrupted him. Today is the old madam's birthday banquet. Just maintain the order of the birthday banquet. Yes. The butler was also inexplicably afraid of this girl who had been brought by Mr. Hua. Bae-yunj was born with a smile. Her eyes were curved, but they were naturally intimidating. It was an aura that did not match her age. Downstairs, Bae-yunj saw that the atmosphere was not right. Everyone was whispering. She took a sip of red wine. Man. Guor, what's wrong? Yu Manran was also shocked by the sudden arrival of the person. When he saw Bae-yunj, he heaved a sigh of relief. Help liven up the atmosphere. The banquet continues. Today is a joyous occasion. Bae-yunj placed the wine glass on the table and wiped her hands. Guor, what are you planning to do? Yu Manran grabbed Bae-yunj's hand. Wait a little longer. Wait for Master Du to come back. She was worried about Bae-yunj's safety. It's not a big deal. Bae-yunj curled her lips and left the living room. Seeing this, Yu Manran could only walk to the piano and play Spring Night Banquet. The atmosphere at the scene was slowly stirred up. On the second floor of another building around the corner, Bae-yunj heard Emomo's voice, but she was speaking fluent our nation's language. It was still a childish voice, but it was filled with determination. I'm not Fernan's child, nor am I a child of the Tang family. Old Madam Hua, hiding this child won't do you any good. Besides, Momo isn't related to you by blood. Don't you know that? The people of the Tang family were calm and composed. There were more than 10 bodyguards outside the door. They had indeed come prepared. Grandma, I'm not going with them. Momo was wearing a small suit. He hugged old Madam Hua's neck tightly and whispered. Momo has been by my side since he was 1 year old. He is the biological grandson of the Hua family. Since the Tang family could be so heartless as to abandon her, they shouldn't want to take her back just because of the family's internal strife. Old Madam Hua also refused to give in. Old Madam Hua, are you refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit? The young woman sitting opposite her sneered and said in a contemptuous tone. You must know that Continent K's resources are far superior to yours. Letting Mo return to the main family is the best choice. In your dreams. Old Madame Hua sneered, unmoved. As soon as she finished speaking, the young woman suddenly smashed the cup on the table. It's just the Hua family. Do you really think that the Tang family won't dare to touch them? Actually, the Tang family was indeed afraid. They were not afraid of the Hua family, but Hua Shidu. A few years ago, they had been attacking the Hua family nonstop. In the end, they did not expect that they would retaliate against the Tang family. However, when they investigated Hua Shida's background, they found nothing. Suddenly, a clear and lazy voice sounded. Grandma, the birthday banquet downstairs has started. End of this chapter. Chapter 963. Old Madame Hua did not expect Bei Yunj to come up at this time. Guer, take Mo downstairs first. Before Old Madame Hua could finish speaking, the older man suddenly spoke. Old Madame Hua, I came here to discuss with you. It's better for Mo to stay here. More than 10 bodyguards blocked the corridor. Bei Yunj put her phone back and glanced at them leisurely. Then, she smiled lazily and said, Grandma, let me entertain the guests. You can go downstairs first. But, Bei Yunj whispered into Old Madame Hua's ear. Go and find brother. Old Madame Hua frowned. She was still worried about Bei Yunj's safety. Guer, you go down first. There are too few desserts downstairs. Grandma, remember to get someone to prepare more. I haven't had dinner yet. Bei Yunj's tone was lazy, but she did not allow anyone to object. Old Madame Hua saw that Bei Yunj's attitude was firm, so she could only purse her lips and prepare to go downstairs to call Hua Shidu before rushing up. However, she did not expect that Bei Yunj would simply close the door to the living room. Who are you? Tang Shi's tone became even colder. Mo held Bei Yunj's hand. No matter how afraid she was, she still coaxed Bei Yunj. Sister, don't be afraid. I will protect you. Bei Yunj smiled and hugged Mo to her side. Her tone was casual, but she could not hide the coldness in her voice. When are you going to get lost? This was also Bei Yunj's bottom line. The old madame's birthday banquet was interrupted just like that. How dare you? Who are you? How dare you speak to us like that? Tang Shi and the rest's gazes turned cold. They did not expect that there would be someone in Country A who dared to provoke their Tang family. Bei Yunj's bright eyes were unrestrained. Her deep eyes seemed to be bloodshot, but she lowered her eyes to hide her cleanness. She licked her lips and asked slowly, What's wrong? You want to fight? I won't abide by the rules of Country A. If you dare to stop us, you can see if you have the life to do so. Tang Qian was arrogant and her eyes were cold. She picked up the gun and pointed it at Bei Yunj. However, the older man beside her felt that this girl was not simple. I'm Tang Weiming, ranked 5th in Continent K's Tang family. Little girl, do you know what kind of existence our Tang family in Continent K is? Tang Weiming narrowed his eyes. She wanted to pressure Bei Yunj. Continent K has its own rules. Aren't you afraid of offending people by coming to our Yin city to snatch people? Bei Yunj's lips suddenly curled into a smile. She stood up and walked over to Tang Shi in a few steps. Tang Shi subconsciously pointed the gun at Bei Yunj, and her gaze turned cold. Bei Yunj sneered and pressed her chest against the muzzle of the gun. Miss, do you think we don't dare to open it? Tang Weiming asked coldly. It was the first time she met a girl of this age who was not afraid of death. Yes. Bei Yunj's eyes were wild and unruly. She said slowly and playfully, If you touch me, the Tang family will be buried with me. You. Tang Shi was instantly enraged. She gritted her teeth and loaded the gun. But unexpectedly, suddenly, a red ray of light was pressed against her chest. Tang Shi was stunned and her body stiffened. Tang Weiming also came back to her senses. What's going on? Your head. The subordinate's face turned pale. Tang Weiming happened to glance at the mirror beside her, and found that there was also a red dot on her forehead. It was a long-range gun, and it was aimed at them. The dozens of bodyguards around them were also aimed at. End of chapter. Chapter 964. Just as Tang Shi was panicking, She suddenly heard the sound of a helicopter's propeller outside the window. "Hello everyone. I'm the captain of the Falcon team from Country A's 1st District." Lu Zhongzhou's voice came from the balcony through the electric current. "As for the lady inside, don't tell me you want to try and see whose gun is faster?" This time, the Tang family completely reacted. The person outside was a soldier from this country. "Who exactly are you?" Tang Weiming gritted his teeth and glared at Bei Yunj with red eyes. His face was slightly distorted. He didn't expect that one day, he would fail in such a small task. Tang Xi's hands also stiffened. After hearing those words, she almost couldn't hold the gun. Bei Yunj glanced at him slowly. His eyes curved as he asked unhurriedly, "Are you qualified to know?" These words made Tang Weiming and Tang Xi's expressions extremely ugly. However, it had only been 10 minutes since Bei Yunj walked in, and so many people from the country had appeared. This proved that Bei Yunj's identity was not simple. At the same time, someone broke through the door and entered. "Miss Pei, are you all right?" "I'm fine." After Bei Yunj answered, he held Mo Mo's hand and led him out of the door. At the door, old Madame Hua was a little surprised by this situation. When she saw Bei Yunj, she came back to her senses. "Who are these people are?" "Grandma, bring Mo downstairs. I still have some things to deal with." Bei Yunj didn't say much, but old Madame Hua could also sense that these people knew Bei Yunj. "Okay, Gur, come down early too." Old Madame Hua could only nod. "Okay. What's wrong with these people? They don't look like people from our country." Lu Zhongzhou narrowed his eyes and sized up those people. "Yes, they're from the Tang family of Continent K." Bei Yunj looked at Tang Weiming and the others who were tied up and escorted downstairs. "What continent?" Lu Zhongzhou's body instantly froze. "Continent K, the Tang family." Bei Yunj reminded him gently. "Lu Zhongzhou, how did this ancestor offend the people of Continent K?" Even he didn't know much about the independent forces in Continent K. Did he offend a force from Continent K without even leaving his house? Lu Zhongzhou took a deep breath. "Bei Yunj, the forces in Continent K are no joke. You should be more careful next time." "Will it give you a lot of trouble?" Bei Yunj asked. Lu Zhongzhou was stunned for a moment. His hand, which was wearing a black leather glove, caressed Bei Yunj's head. "Your age and your talent are the hope of our country, eh? No one wants anything to happen to you. Uncouth people like us have never seen any amazing scientists in our lives, so we also want to see you reach the top. Being able to protect you is also a merit that we can take out." Back then, the higher-ups had originally discussed sending Bei Yunj to Nili University to receive the highest level of education, and let Lu Zhongzhou and the others protect her. However, they never thought that Bei Yunj's growth would exceed everyone's imagination. The 19-year-old Physics Prize. The 19-year-old Busaka nomination. Bei Yunj's results had turned the academic circle upside down. However, they were also careful and signed an agreement with some people in the academic circle not to disclose her age to the public. In other countries, the academic circle also avoided having anything to do with the political circle. Of course, there were very few undercover scholars. No matter how young the other countries guessed, they probably never thought that her real age was only around 20. Lu Zhongzhou had just escorted her downstairs when he heard someone calling Bei Yunj. "Yin." The man's voice was pleasant and familiar to Lu Zhongzhou. He turned around and was stunned when he saw Huashida's face clearly. "Brother." Bei Yunj had just walked up to Huashida when she saw him holding her favorite cake. Huashida handed the cake to Bei Yunj. "It looks like there are guests at home." Bei Yunj took the cake bag. Before she could speak, she heard Lu Zhongzhou probe. "Sir, have we met somewhere before?" Lu Zhongzhou had been to Continent K on a mission. He seemed to have seen this person there before, but he could not be sure. "We have indeed met before. I saw you in the war zone." The man looked elegant and noble. He was wearing a black suit and a long coat. His temperament was light and lazy, and his pale-colored eyes were indifferent. Lu Zhongzhou hesitated. "Is that so? God, Lu, isn't your method of investigation too old-fashioned?" The team member beside him said. Lu Zhongzhou hid his panic. "What nonsense are you talking about? I just think that Mr. Hua is too handsome, and I'm afraid that Miss Pei will be deceived." The team member muttered. Who in the war zone doesn't know that you and God Tan raised Miss Pei as a daughter? Huashida's face was indeed too aggressive. His temperament was ascetic and cold, but his pair of peach blossom eyes could make people blush. The scumbag vibe of a refined scum was vividly reflected on him. What nonsense are you talking about? Lu Zhongzhou was interrupted by his team member and forgot his original thoughts. Not long after, Huashida knew what had happened and was not in a hurry to interrogate the people from Continent K. Instead, he arranged for a separate living room and invited Lu Zhongzhou and the rest to have a cake with Bei Yunj. After all, their identities were special. In the room, Huashida's slender index finger tapped the cigarette between his fingers as he narrowed his eyes and watched the video in the living room. When he saw Tang Shi pointing a gun at Bei Yunj, he bit his cigarette lazily. The cigarette but instantly turned scarlet red and spat out a circle of white smoke. However, in the eyes of Tang Shi and the rest, the man's careless appearance was the prelude to danger. Master Du, Zhou Yu rushed over and nodded slightly at Huashidu. He did not look at the Tang family. Huashidu, the Tang family will not let you off. If you dare to touch us, the Tang family will definitely avenge us. The woman shouted in a sharp voice. Huashidu only raised his eyes slightly and glanced at her indifferently. He sneered. Zhou Yu, ask her to call the Tang family. Yes. Under Tang Shi's flustered and guarded gaze, Zhou Yu took out her phone and called the Tang family. Qian, come back quickly. Tang Shi wanted to ask for help, but the words were stuck in her throat. She could not help but look at the man not far away. She had an ominous feeling. Dad, what's wrong? Tang Shi's voice trembled slightly. At home. The Tang family is finished. The Tang family is completely finished. The middle-aged man on the other end of the phone sounded pained. I shouldn't have provoked him. Now the Tang family is going to be gone. Tang Weiming's body stiffened. What did you say, brother? Weiming, I can't protect the Tang family anymore. Beg Huashidu and ask him to give us a way out, okay? Take it that brother begs. Before he could finish speaking, the call was hung up. End of chapter. Chapter 965. Zhou Yu put his phone aside. Miss Tang, I've explained the situation to you. You. Tang Shi's entire body was trembling. It was obvious that the man in front of her had long been prepared to touch the Tang family. She gritted her teeth. Huashidu, I'm Momo's aunt. The Tang family is Momo's family. If you do this, Mo will hate you. The man looked up at her. His pale-colored eyes were devoid of desire, and his emotions could not be discerned. Tang Shi subconsciously swallowed her saliva. Let me go. Tie her up and throw her into the police station. With that said, Huashidu put out the cigarette in his hand and ignored the screams inside. He pushed the door open and left. However, he did not expect to see a small figure in front of him when he lowered his head. The boy looked exquisite and tender. He looked at him with his big obsidian-like eyes. Huashidu slowly squatted down and looked at him casually. He flicked Momo's forehead with his index finger. What are you doing here? Mo rubbed his forehead that did not hurt and tiptoed to hug Huashida's neck. Brother, don't tell me you don't want Mo anymore? He sniffed and his voice was soft and uneasy. I worked very hard to learn Chinese and listen to brother and grandma. I will protect you when I grow up. The man reached out to pull the child away and gently wiped away the tears on his face. Is that so? You even made the Chinese teacher leave in a fit of anger. Mo. Who else did you kiss this morning? Huashidu slowly reopened the score. Momo's small body froze. Before Bei Yunj returned last night, Mo had promised Huashidu with his dignity as a man that he would not secretly kiss Bei Yunj. However, this morning, Mo thought that Huashidu was not around and hugged Bei Yunj coquettishly, so he took the opportunity to kiss him. He even said bad things about his brother. Go downstairs and eat cake. The man rarely carried the little guy personally. Mo leaned on the man's shoulder and muttered, Brother, you are my most important family member. I don't want others to hurt you. Not even the Tang family. Huashida said slowly, then don't skip class. Mo, downstairs. Bei Yunj sent Lu Zhongzhou and the others off. She held the cake in her hand and had already prepared a draft in her heart. She was going to explain it to Hoshido later. After all, some of the guests had seen Lu Zhongzhou's sudden arrival. How could Hoshido not be suspicious? When Bei Yunj thought of this, she subconsciously turned her head. She almost bumped into the man. Bei Yunj looked up and saw Hoshido clearly. Her expression did not change. "Brother." Hoshido glanced at her, and his gaze landed on her cake. He slowly picked up a small spoon and dug out a piece to taste it. The man raised his eyebrows. "It's too sweet." Bei Yunj hesitated. "This is mine." She had also used this spoon just now. Hoshido glanced at her leisurely and scooped another spoonful of the cake in Bei Yunj's hand. "Open your mouth." "What?" Bei Yunj was about to speak when she was suddenly fed a spoonful of cake. The sweet taste of cake and sweet fruit spread on her taste buds, making her feel happy. However, Bei Yunj was stunned by Hoshido's actions. Bei Yunj. All right, this man must have thought that she was unhappy because he ate her cake. At the thought of this, Bei Yunj suddenly noticed something, and the way she looked at Hoshido changed slightly. She subconsciously took a step back and asked tentatively, "Brother, did you drink?" End of chapter. Chapter 966. Hoshido paused for a moment because of Bei Yunj's retreating action. Then he unconsciously licked the tip of his itchy teeth and asked lazily, "What?" Bei Yunj looked at Hoshido and recalled how Hoshido had snatched her cake. All right, he had really drunk. No wonder he didn't look for trouble with her, or ask her anything. "Who told you to drink?" "Yuhanran again?" Bei Yunj's pretty eyes narrowed slightly as she put the blame on Yuhanran. "What's wrong with drinking?" Hoshido found it funny. Just as he was about to take a step forward, Bei Yunj took a step back. The man looked up casually and met Bei Yunj's eyes. Suddenly, the man took a step forward and Bei Yunj quickly took a step back. They returned to their original distance. Hoshido looked at the little girl who was openly avoiding him and said, "Yunyun, come here." "Brother, I'll get you something to sober you up." Bei Yunj did not want to be alone with Hoshido in such an occasion. But in the next moment, Bei Yunj was suddenly grabbed by someone. Before Bei Yunj could shake him off, the person behind her lost half of his strength and pressed down on her. The man held her wrist with one hand and bent down. His low and magnetic voice softened her heart and made her heart tingle. "Yunyun, brother has a headache." Bei Yunj stopped moving. Yu Hanran, who was drinking champagne not far away, also saw this scene. He muttered softly, "Tih, Master Du is good. You're even better at pretending than me." After Yu Hanran finished speaking, he felt Bei Yunj's cold gaze from afar. Oh. What kind of gaze was that? How had he offended this ancestor? After Bei Yunj retracted her gaze, she could only lead her people to the back garden. She prepared to bypass the crowded places and directly bring her up to the second floor. "Is Master Du drunk?" Wen Jiawan asked subconsciously. "What are you thinking? Who dares to force him to drink?" Yu Hanran said calmly. Hearing this, Wen Jiawan's gaze fell on him and did not move away for a long time. Yu Hanran put on a fake smile. "I didn't." Wen Jiawan came back to her senses and looked at the man supported by Bei Yunj. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly. "Then he is pretending to be drunk and taking advantage of a young lady." Yu Hanran was obviously an experienced person. However, when Jiawan's body froze and her expression turned ugly, the man she adored was an unreachable flower in her heart. How could he? When Jiawan blushed and pursed her lips. "Miss, when a man is a man, in front of the person he likes, he will only be an ordinary person." Yu Hanran knew very well what Wen Jiawan was thinking. There was a deep look in his eyes. Everyone has desires. Wen Jiawan's heart skipped a beat. When she turned her head with a stiff neck, she happened to meet his deep eyes. Not long after, Yu Hanran watched as Wen Jiawan fled. He sneered and continued to drink. In the north stairwell, Bei Yunj helped the man to the balcony on the second floor. Bei Yunj saw that the man was still well behaved today, and was not like last time. She heaved a sigh of relief. The man was also thinking, why did Bei Yunj look so afraid of him drinking? Suddenly, Bei Yunj pinched his face with both hands. She seemed to be holding a grudge. Don't you think you're in danger when you're drunk? After acting like a hooligan, he lost his memory. This was the first time the man's face was pinched. Looking at this young lady's bold behavior, she was relying on the fact that he would not remember when he was sober. Chapter 967. He did not stop the little girl's dangerous actions. He only raised his thin eyelids and asked ambiguously, "Is your alcohol tolerance not good?" After Huashidu finished speaking, Baiyunj suddenly remembered that this man had whispered into her ear in the back of the car. It was ambiguous and touching. Baiyunj subconsciously paused and quickly retracted her hand. After a while, she looked up at Huashidu again and asked tentatively, "Brother, are you really drunk?" She felt that the man's attitude today was a little strange. However, when Baiyunj subconsciously met the man's eyes that were filled with deep and shallow light, as well as his half-hidden dark eyes, that explicit gaze was the same as the way the man looked at her the last time he was drunk. "I'll go get you something to sober up." Baiyunj quickly stood up and went to the room to get something to sober up. The man was also thinking why the little girl was so afraid of him after he drank. 10 minutes later, Baiyunj walked back. "I don't think there's a usual drink to sober up." "Okay." The man looked up and saw that the little girl was a little distance away from him. His voice was lazy and light. "Yin, come and lean on me for a while. Isn't there a rattan chair? I'm cold." After the man finished speaking, Baiyunj looked at him for a long time before saying something and entering the room again. "I'll go get a blanket." Not long after, Baiyunj came over with a blanket and threw it to Huashidu from afar. She kept a distance. The man's thin eyelids moved. After a while, he picked up the blanket with his well-jointed hands. "This blanket is dirty." Baiyunj looked at him. "Give me another one." "Baiyunj." A few minutes later, Baiyunj threw another blanket to him expressionlessly. "Whose is this?" the man asked leisurely. Baiyunj's eyelids twitched. She felt that this man liked to cause trouble for her after he was drunk today. "It's mine." "It's still dirty." Huashidu slowly spread out the blanket and said unhurriedly, "Oh." Baiyunj calmed herself down and walked towards him. She asked patiently, "Where is it dirty?" When Baiyunj walked over, Huashidu naturally changed his words. "I saw wrongly." Baiyunj. This was the first time Baiyunj had encountered such an unreasonable person, and he couldn't get angry. "I'll get someone to buy you something to sober you up." Baiyunj was about to leave when someone suddenly grabbed her wrist. Before she could react, Baiyunj was pulled back by this sudden force and bumped into the man's warm and firm chest. "Huashidu." Baiyunj was still annoyed. But before she could say anything, the man held her hand and looked at the red spot on her hand. "Allergic?" Baiyunj paused and looked at Huashidu. "Did brother enter my room last night?" Baiyunj had closed the door last night, but the door was unlocked this morning. Alas, didn't seem like he could open the door himself. Huashidu's lips curled up imperceptibly as he went along with her intentions. "No." "Then why is my door open?" "Yin opened it," the man said sincerely. Baiyunj suddenly had a bad feeling. "What?" Huashidu leaned against the rattan chair lazily. "Yin entered brother's room last night." Baiyunj's mind went blank, and she couldn't react. However, she remembered that Si Qingyan had reminded her last time that the side effects of the medicine might not only be allergies. So, and sleepwalking? End of chapter. Chapter 968. Baiyunj took a while to react before she turned around and asked, "What did I do when I went in?" After asking, Baiyunj belatedly felt that something was wrong. The man leaned closer and smiled beautifully. It made her blush and her heart beat faster. When she met his dark eyes, it made her heart burn even more. His tone was light, but it made her ears tremble. Yin came in and insisted on hugging me. Baiyunj wanted to retort and felt that this was ridiculous. But in the next moment, a series of very blurry scenes suddenly rushed into her mind. It was her hugging Huashidu and refusing to let go. Baiyunj froze. No wonder the man looked at her strangely in the morning. "Why didn't you push me away?" After Baiyunj asked, She met the man's fixed gaze. She was afraid that he would say something inhumane again, so she immediately changed her words. Then you didn't take my medicine? The man leaned against the recliner and naturally held Bae Yunja's hand with one hand. He replied lazily, yes. This dispelled Bae Yunja's last suspicion. It seemed that Alisai was really the one who did it. It's good that you didn't take it. Bae Yunj glanced at Huashidu and quickly looked away. She quietly held his slender and beautiful hand tightly. Suddenly, Bae Yunj felt the man behind her suddenly press forward and rest his chin on her shoulder. She turned around and instinctively wanted to push him away. However, the man quickly grabbed her other hand and held both of her hands, gently but forcefully pressing them down. The man's warm breath made Bae Yunj tremble uncontrollably. His low and deep voice sounded in her ear, and it was a malicious tease. Yunyin, I don't like to be lied to either. His fingers gently rubbed her palm, and he coaxed her helplessly. Don't always bully me. He sounded a little angry. However, the man still put down his attitude and coaxed her intimately and naturally, as if he was acting coquettishly. Such lethality was simply overwhelming. It caused the defenses in one's heart to crumble. As proud as he was, Huashidu would also put himself in the lowest position and willingly hand over the authority to coax the girl in his heart. Bae Yunj was stunned for a moment. She couldn't stop her heart from beating faster, and she felt a surge of numbness. She hurriedly turned her head back, but her ears were as red as blood. For a moment, she forgot to tell if the man was drunk or not. Seeing how red the little girl's ears were, the man curled his lips and pinched her cute little ears with his jade-like index finger. Yunyin, are you cold? Why are your ears red? Suddenly, Bae Yunj immediately moved forward and faced the devilish man. Huashidu, are you pretending to be drunk? The man raised his eyebrows and looked at the little girl in front of him. He was a little angry. Big brother has a secret. Huashidu looked at her for a while and casually tidied up the blanket. He smiled slowly and said, last night, Yunyin came to my room and said that she wanted to sleep with brother. Soon. Before Huashidu could finish speaking, Bae Yunj instinctively reached out and covered the man's mouth. She felt that if he continued speaking, she wouldn't want to see his face again tomorrow. But in the next moment, Bae Yunj suddenly felt as if her palm had been swept by a feather. Just now this man kissed her hand and heart. At this moment, Bae Yunj immediately retracted her hand. Her ears were burning and her expression was about to crack. End of this chapter. Chapter 969. At this moment, Bae Yunja's uncontrollable heartbeat disrupted her rationality. A certain wire in her mind seemed to have been burned and short-circuited. What are you doing? However, the man's low laughter was hopelessly sexy. His peach blossom eyes curved gently, and the corners of his upturned eyes were seductive. His posture was lazy and ostentatious. When Bae Yunj instinctively looked up, fireworks happened to rise into the sky. It cast a shadow on the man's handsome face, making him look even more distinct. Light flowed in the depths of his deep, indistinguishable eyes, like the interplay of day and night. After a while, Pei Qian continued to question him without much confidence. Kiss me. However, the man suddenly pressed forward, his voice casual and joking. Where do you want me to kiss? Bae Yunj suddenly stood up, her hair standing on end. Her hands were still stiff. She glanced at Huashidu and left the balcony. She looked like she was fleeing. On the balcony, the man's deep and magnetic laughter made people blush and their hearts race. It was lazy and sexy. At the Computing Institute. Professor C, is there something wrong with our teacher recently? Jasmine and Tich hesitated for a while before asking Si Qingyan about this. What's wrong? Si Qingyan glanced at them through the screen. They still had to teach Bae Yunja's students because they lost a bet. Recently, teacher has been distracted. When we call her after we finish the questions, she can't even hold her teacup properly. Tich added. Oh right, teacher has only been using her left hand to write recently. I see. Si Qingyan narrowed his eyes and looked at them. Haven't you thought that this is because she still can't accept the fact that you're her students? Jasmine. Tich. She even outsourced her own students' education. Do you think her heart aches for you? Just as Si Qingyan finished speaking, someone slapped his head from behind. Si Qingyan, I asked you to help me change the topic, and you have to say a few bad things about Guer? Zhong Xinglin had just finished a meeting and came back angrily with a folder. What's wrong with you? Why are you so angry today? Si Qingyan rubbed his head and cut the video. It's all because of the decision maker this time. What was wrong with him? It's fine if you want the National Defense Research Institute and the Physics and Chemistry Institute to send people to participate in that experiment, but you also want our Computing Institute to send people? Zhong Xinglin was furious. Do all of us have nothing better to do? Also, those guys from the physics department and the National Defense Research Institute are the professionals. Why should we join in? After that, coincidentally, she heard someone greeting her in the corridor outside. Yunj, how's the third project going? It's almost over. Bei Yunj's voice sounded from outside the door. Then Zhong Xinglin saw Bei Yunj walk in wearing a white coat. It was very leisurely. Zhong Xinglin. Si Qingyan was speechless. There was really someone who was very free. Suddenly, Zhong Xinglin suspected that the National Defense First Research Institute had planted some spies in his institute and deliberately made him send people out. Guer, let's come over to discuss something. Zhong Xinglin waved at her. Bei Yunj glanced at him and quickly walked in front of them. What's wrong? Well, we have a talent nurturing plan. Bei Yunj said leisurely. I'm not going. Indeed, he had kicked an iron plate. Zhong Xinglin racked his brains. But this plan involves a very important experiment. End of this chapter. Chapter 970. This is an experiment in District 1. Zhong Xinglin glanced at Bei Yunj and glanced at the door before he said, It's a tacit understanding that the experiment in District 1 is to prepare for war. War? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. Zhong Xinglin said, This is not a war between countries, but it is equally important. In the borderless area, there are international criminal gangs that need to be arrested. There is also the alliance agreement between the continent and Continent K. Although it is peaceful coexistence, there are actually conflicts every year. Their Laboratory 191 has a history of hundreds of years, since the World War. Let me think about it. Bei Yunj thought about Hoshida's side. It was not easy to explain. Zhong Xinglin also knew that Bei Yunj was willing to consider going because of Lu Zhongzhou and Tan Nan's team. The higher-ups had also made the right decision. Bei Yunj had always been amenable to coaxing but not coercion. If they forced her to go, the laboratory would probably be destroyed by her. But now, Bei Yunj had a lot of feelings for Lu Zhongzhou, Tan Nan, and the rest. Considering the safety of Lu Zhongzhou and the rest when they carried out missions in the future, Bei Yunj would help. After returning, Bei Yunj thought that she would discuss this matter with Hoshidu. She estimated that it would take some time before Hoshidu agreed. However, she did not expect Hoshidu to agree to her request without asking much. However, he also had a request. He had to let the chauffeur take him home during the weekend. District 1. Bei Yunj came here again. She did not deliberately dress in bright and eye-catching clothes like last time. Instead, she wore a simple shirt and sweater with a blue cotton jacket. Her black hair was loose and curly, but her eyes were still exquisite and beautiful. After getting out of the car, Bei Yunj also saw a few girls checking their passes at the door. Not far away. Miss, your passes. After the girls left, the guards could not help but discuss excitedly. Look at this group of girls, they are too good-looking. They look so fresh. It's been a long time since such good-looking girls came to the district. They are actually all scientific researchers. Aren't the girls in our literature and art department also very pretty? Another person rolled his eyes. I feel that the leader of our Ministry of Arts is the one who is beautiful. How could anyone compare to her? Before he could finish his sentence, a clear and unhurried voice sounded from the door. Hello, I'm here to participate in the experimental special training. When they turned around and saw the girl in front of them, their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. Was he also a researcher? In this day and age, why were girls who engaged in scientific research more beautiful than celebrities? Miss Miss, are you from the experimental training class? Excuse me, do you have a pass? Yes. Bei Yunj found the card that Zhong Xinglin had given her. Class A access. Before the astonishment in the gatekeeper's eyes could fade away, a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. Please come in. Thank you. Bei Yunj took the pass, thanked him, and left. After Bei Yunj left, the gatekeeper turned around and looked at his partner in disbelief. What's going on? The experimental training class has an A-level pass? That's impossible, right? Just now, the first research institute of the Ministry of National Defense also had a B-level pass. That person frowned. It's true. That person seems to be from some computing institute. What? Now the people from the computing institute are also participating in this experiment? On the way, Bei Yunj followed the pass and did not expect to be stopped by someone. Hey young lady? Bei Yunj turned around and saw an old man in a singlet and pants repairing a car. End of chapter. Chapter 971. Very soon. Bei Yunj was about to leave. I don't know how to. Find someone else. The old man in the vest. Very soon. The old man put down the wrench and hurriedly put on his coat. He stopped Bei Yunj. Little girl, do me a favor. Help me find a few people. This car can't be fixed. I have to get someone to push it back. Can't you go and find someone? Bei Yunj glanced at her watch. Seeing that she was going to be late, she immediately walked around him. Little girl, are you so blind? Do you know who I am? The old man saw that Bei Yunj was stubborn and instantly became anxious. No one in the entire district disobeyed him like this. Bei Yunj gave him a few red notes and maintained her little patience. Okay, you're good. Someone will come later. Let him help you. Elder Chu, who was being stuffed with money for the first time, was speechless. Little girl, aren't you curious about my true identity? Elder Chu was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. He really wanted to know which research institute taught her. Bei Yunj chuckled and happened to glance at the white armband on his coat. Cooking team? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and was a little surprised. However, Elder Chu noticed that Bei Yunj was looking at the coat he borrowed and immediately explained, I'm not a cook. Actually, I can give it a try. After saying that, Bei Yunj took off her coat and walked towards the car. This made Elder Chu swallow the second half of his sentence. He squatted beside Bei Yunj and realized that Bei Yunj was very skilled in repairing cars. Little girl, your family runs a car repair factory? Elder Chu was curious. Bei Yunj. No. Elder Chu asked again. Why did you lie to me just now? Because I don't want to help you repair it. Bei Yunj said lazily and was quite honest. Elder Chu was speechless. Which research institute was this little rascal from? 10 minutes later, Bei Yunj stood up. Her hands were covered in black gasoline. It's fixed. Elder Chu looked at Bei Yunj strangely and immediately went to test the car. He realized that this old car had actually been fixed by her. All right, little girl. What's your name? Elder Chu could not help but ask. Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj smiled and got into Old Master Chu's car. Old Master, can you send me to a place? A few minutes later, Bei Yunj arrived at the assembly point. The special training here is divided into classes 1 and 2. You still have to go to class 1 if you have the chance. Do you understand? Elder Chu reminded. Usually, those who can enter the laboratory are class 1 students. Elder Chu, you're in charge of the meals for the special training class, right? Bei Yunj turned around and asked. Elder Chu gradually reacted. This guy helped him repair his car. Did he think that he was in the kitchen? Elder Chu suppressed his urge to scold him and put on a fake smile. Of course. Not only was he in charge of the kitchen in District 1, but he was also in charge of all the commands in District 1 to District 3. After Bei Yunj got out of the car, Elder Chu did not forget to remind him. Don't just come in and waste your time. Just be a fill-in. If you can participate in this experiment, there will be many benefits in the future. Okay. Bei Yunj's tone was leisurely and Elder Chu felt that he was being perfunctory. How could there be such a young man who was so unambitious? Elder Chu took a deep breath and casually entered the office in the building. The captains inside were stunned. They did not expect to see Elder Chu here. They instinctively stood up and wanted to bow. However, they saw Elder Chu frowning and calling the Special Training Department. "Hello, Special Training Department? Later, there's someone who's late. Let her report to Class 1. Everyone's eyes widened. Elder Chu was personally helping someone get in through the back door. End of chapter. Chapter 972. Who had such a big face? The captains pricked up their ears to listen. The people from the Special Training Department were also stunned. Elder Chu, but the people in Class 1 and 2 are about the same this year. Unless someone from Class 1 is willing to go over. Why are you so troublesome when I asked you to have one more seat? Elder Chu started to get impatient. It's just a matter of moving a table. Will it kill one more person? The people from the Special Training Department could only bite the bullet and say, you're right. The young lady is only in her 20s. You might need to be patient. Elder Chu said meaningfully. Elder Chu's original meaning was for them to be stricter with Bei Yunj. However, the meaning changed when it landed in the ears of the Special Training Department and the captains. They thought that Elder Chu wanted them to be nicer to that student. Understood. Very understood. The teacher nodded. Elder Chu nodded in satisfaction. It's good that you understand. Then I'm fine. With that, Elder Chu left happily. The remaining captains looked at each other. Elder Chu's granddaughter came to the base? That can't be. I've never heard of Elder Chu having a granddaughter. She might be a friend's granddaughter. Elder Chu personally went through the back door. Everyone be careful. Don't offend people you shouldn't offend. At the Special Training Department. After the teachers of Class 1 and Class 2 received the news, they could only bite the bullet and do so. Very soon, a girl in a pink dress appeared at the entrance of Class 2. She looked gentle and amiable. Teacher, I'm sorry. I'm late. Can I still go in? When the teacher of Class 2 saw this, he immediately smiled and said, Student, you can report to Class 1. The teacher of Class 1 is waiting for you. Class 1? But my pass is sea level. Didn't you say? Before the girl could finish speaking, the teacher of Class 2 leaned against the wall and smiled gently. It's okay. Class 1 still lacks students. You are young and talented. Class 2 doesn't dare to accept you. These words caused the girl to be pleasantly surprised. Really? Originally, when she was in the Institute of Physics, the director said that she lost because she was too young. Otherwise, with her results in a few years, she would definitely be able to enter Class 1 directly. She didn't expect her to be so lucky that she could really enter Class 1 directly. Thank you, teacher. Guo Qingning hugged her books and ran toward Class 1. When she reached Class 1, Teacher, I'm Guo Qingning. I'm sorry for being late. Just now, the teacher of Class 2 said that I can. Before Guo Qingning could finish, the teacher nodded and smiled. Come in, Guo Qingning. Thank you, teacher. Guo Qingning suppressed her excitement and entered Class 1. The others also did not expect that there would be such a young person in the class. She was only 23 or 24 years old, right? Are you always so gentle when you're late? I feel that this year's special training teachers are very strange. The people below were discussing, until another voice came from the door. Reporting. The teacher frowned and turned around to see Bei Yunj standing at the door. The atmosphere suddenly froze because Guo Qingning had just entered and was already sitting in the last seat. Sorry I'm late, Bei Yunj said. Suddenly, the teacher became stern and said coldly, being late is being late. What's the use of apologizing? Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows and waited for her to continue. There's no place for you in Class 1. Since you're late, you have to take responsibility for this situation. The teacher said lightly. The others looked at each other with different expressions. End of chapter. Chapter 973. The teacher didn't have this attitude just now. Everyone couldn't help but look at Guo Qingning again, as if they understood something. Guo Qingning glanced at Bei Yunj, smiled, and lowered her head to do her own thing. Bei Yunj also put the documents back into her pocket and turned around lazily. Stop right there. The teacher's face cracked. What are you going to do? Make a call and get someone to pick me up. Bei Yunji's tone was casual, and she didn't intend to force her to stay. As soon as she said this, the teacher's face almost stiffened. If Bei Yunj really left, she would have to bear the responsibility. Student, there are still vacancies in class 2. Suddenly, the teacher on the other side of the corridor looked at Bei Yunj with interest. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. She didn't look at the teacher, and went straight to class 2. The students of class 1 saw that their teacher's face was distorted with anger, and couldn't help but look outside. What kind of god was this? She even dared to offend a teacher from the special training department in District 1? Class 2. Okay, find a seat and sit down. The teacher of class 2 was young and good-looking, but she was a little slovenly. Even the students in class 2 looked much older than those in class 1. Bei Yunj replied, "Thank you, teacher." How old is this little girl? Why did she come to this place? Some people were discussing. Some people directly asked Bei Yunj, "Student, which research institute are you from?" "The Institute of Computing," Bei Yunj said calmly. As soon as she finished speaking, everyone suddenly understood why Bei Yunj was arranged to be in class 2. The students of class 1 were all from a first-class professional research institute. The students of class 2 were either not from a second-class research institute or Bei Yunj was from a not-so-professional computing institute. It's okay, it's easy to come to class 2. Another female researcher who was much older than Bei Yunj smiled. I'm Higaing from the First Research Institute of the Ministry of National Defense. Bei Yunj from the Institute of Computing. As soon as she finished speaking, Higaing looked surprised. Institute of Computing? You're from the Computing Institute, and the teacher from class 1 dares to send you to class 2? Bei Yunj replied calmly, okay. Except for Higaing, everyone else felt that this was a difficult person to approach. Then have you seen Si Qingyan? Higaing blushed and asked shyly. Bei Yunj paused and looked at her. I've seen her before. Really? Professor C is my idol. In last year's academic conference, he was the only member under the age of 30. She's also good-looking. Higaing was extremely excited. Bei Yunj did not expect Si Qingyan to be so popular in the industry. However, Higaing's excitement only lasted for an afternoon. The next day, only then did everyone know that this special training included physical fitness training. Although it would not be a request from the district team, it could still make these researchers who were usually pampered lose a layer of skin. The cafeteria was shared by the new members and the special training classes. Bei Yunj glanced at the big pots of rice in the cafeteria, and her eyelids twitched. Higaing quickly realized the problem. You're not used to it. Bei Yunj did not speak, but looking at Bei Yunj's appearance, she knew that this was someone who had never suffered in the world. However, when Bei Yunj and Higaing went to get their food, they realized that the old master who was cooking had changed. Before Bei Yunj could look up, a can of beef was suddenly placed on the plate. This action stunned even the newbies in the district who had just finished eating and were about to leave. Chapter 974. Instantly, the rice balls in their bowls were no longer fragrant. Bei Yunj looked up and saw Elder Chu in his shift uniform. He raised his chin and looked arrogant. Bei Yunj, do you know this person? Higaing came back to her senses. Yes, I'm her grandfather. Elder Chu gave the other can to Higaing without blushing or skipping a beat. I'll have to trouble you to take care of her. Bei Yunj looked at him. Question mark. Hurry up and leave. The people behind you still need to get their food. Elder Chu chased them away after he finished speaking. But before Bei Yunj left, he stuffed a bottle of milk into her pocket. Everyone was dumbfounded by this scene. She could get into the kitchen through the back door? Gua Qingning, who happened to come to get her food, also saw the canned food on Higaing's plate. There's canned beef in the cafeteria? The person beside her had just finished watching the whole process and said mockingly, how can there be? There's a girl in class 2 whose grandfather works in the kitchen. Gua Qingning came back to her senses and smiled reservedly. I see. I'm so envious. What are you envious of? All the teachers and team leaders were very polite to you this morning. I almost thought that you were some big shot's granddaughter. The girl said. Gua Qingning shook her head and said helplessly, don't spread rumors. I'm not someone who relies on connections. Yes, you're the chosen one. You're not like some people who are so high profile even when they come to the cafeteria. Just because your grandfather works in the kitchen, you think you're so great. The disdain and ridicule in the girl's eyes were not hidden at all, as if she was deliberately letting others hear. Those who don't know would think that her grandfather is in charge of District 3. It's nothing to suffer a little. I just want to get a place in the laboratory. After Gua Qingning finished speaking, she seemed to mention it unintentionally. What do you think of Vice Captain Bai? This morning, only the Vice Captain looked down on her cold appearance. Vice Captain Bai treats everyone the same. Don't mind him. In the backyard. When did I become your granddaughter? Bei Yunj saw Elder Chu weeding in the backyard and walked over to ask. Then what can I say? Say that you bribed me so I gave you kin food? Elder Chu glanced at her. Bei Yunj. What's wrong? Is it embarrassing to have a grandfather in the kitchen? Elder Chu's tone was not very good. Bei Yunj squatted down to help and said slowly, I'm afraid that if my father finds out, it'll be hard to coax him when we get back. Elder Chu inexplicably felt sour in his heart. Do you often accompany your grandfather? Not often, so I don't dare to provoke him. Bei Yunj raised her beautiful eyes and smiled lazily. Elder Chu snorted. Suddenly, Elder Chu realized that something was wrong. Don't you have classes in the afternoon? Bei Yunj looked up at him, and their eyes met. Elder Chu wanted to curse. In the classroom. After receiving a scolding, Bei Yunj returned to her seat indifferently. Bei Yunj, where have you been? He's even late for class. He Guying was curious. Bei Yunj said casually without blushing. I'm helping my grandpa weed out the weeds. He Guying. She always felt that Bei Yunj did not come from an ordinary family. After the whole day, the special training class did not have time to rest. At night, Class 1 and Class 2 were gathered together. After everyone finished running, each of them was holding a computer and doing exercises. Everyone was tired and sleepy, and they still had to face these professional problems. Whichever class finishes the task first today can go back and rest first. After the training leader finished speaking, the others realized that Class 1 had changed into clean clothes, but their wet clothes were still clinging to their bodies. Chapter 975. Teacher, why can't the students from Class 1 change their clothes? Some students from Class 2 were not convinced. This was also because they had been holding grudges for a long time. Class 1 was better than Class 2 in all aspects, including the teachers. At this moment, the students from Class 1 sneered. Your class's standards are poor. They don't have time to change your clothes. That's right. Your class's efficiency is low. What does it have to do with our class? The corners of Gua Qingning's mouth curled up slightly. Soon she lowered her head and continued to do the questions. What do you mean? The students from Class 2 almost wanted to pick a fight. But after being glanced at by the captains from the district, the boy could only bite the bullet and sit down. Suddenly, why don't you give Class 2 time to change their clothes? A burly man asked. Captain Bai, this. Another captain's expression was a little bad. Their class can't spare the time, so? Do you think these researchers are from the district? White Bear frowned. The task given by the higher-ups is to train your physical fitness. It's not for you to do anything. Yes. Another captain quickly replied. White Bear turned to Class 2. You can change your clothes now. But this question is something that must be completed. Class 2 was silent. Instead of using the time to change their clothes, they might as well finish the question as soon as possible and go back to the dormitory. White Bear touched the back of his head and seemed a little impatient. You guys just wait and see. A few captains responded. After White Bear left, the teacher from Class 1 glanced at everyone shrewdly. Class 2 seems to be very dissatisfied with the arrangement. The students from Class 2 did not say anything. Next, the teacher pointed at the question on the screen. His tone was a little condescending. If your class can solve these questions, We will give equal treatment to Class 1 and Class 2 in the future. These words made the students from Class 2's expression turn ugly. However, Class 1 burst into laughter. TSK, the pot matches the lid. Haven't the students from Class 2 heard of this before? They're not good enough. Yet they want to treat everyone equally. That's right. Didn't their class pick up someone that we didn't want? Suddenly, Hee-gaing, who was doing the question quietly, stopped and suddenly raised her hand. The teacher from Class 1 saw this. You want to do the question? No. I want to ask the students from Class 1 to try. How many questions can they get right? Immediately, everyone in Class 1 fell silent. Class 1's teacher's expression also instantly turned ugly as he looked at Hee-gaing gloomily. Until Guo Qingning suddenly said, I can try the questions above. Teacher, can I? After Class 1's teacher reacted, he smiled and said, Of course. To be able to solve half of the questions on this list is already very impressive. Guo Qingning stood up, walked to the front, and sat in front of the computer. About an hour later, Guo Qingning's answer process appeared on the screen. 6 out of 10 questions were correct. Everyone was stunned. How could Guo Qingning be so powerful at such a young age? Student Guo is amazing. The teacher of Class 1 was all smiles as he clapped his hands and said. Guo Qingning nodded and walked to Hee-gaing. She straightened her back and said with a faint smile, Someone from Class 1 has tried. Who in Class 2 wants to try? Immediately, the students of Class 1 were whistling in private. Goddess Guo is so cool. Class 2, don't be a coward. If you dare to snatch resources, why don't you dare to go up and do the questions? Everyone in Class 2 had ugly expressions on their faces. Suddenly, a clear and lazy voice sounded not far away. Why is the water in the bathhouse cold? Chapter 976. Everyone turned around and saw a girl wearing a light-colored sweater and light green cotton jacket walking in. It was a strong contrast to their unkempt image. Which class are you from? The captain asked immediately. Class 2. Bei Yunj said slowly. Without even looking at Guo Qingning, he walked to Hee-gaing and sat down. The captains suddenly regained their senses. When did you go to the bathhouse? Why didn't you gather here? I wanted to change my clothes after running. Bei Yunj's tone was calm. The students of Class 2 could not help but look at Bei Yunj in admiration. This person was really wild. The captains were also furious, but they had just been reprimanded by White Bear. Their faces were livid, and they could not flare up. Student, you're blocking my light by standing here. Bei Yunj looked up carelessly and glanced at Guo Qingning. Guo Qingning averted her gaze inexplicably, and her body stiffened. However, after regaining her senses, Guo Qingning felt embarrassed. She was still standing in front of Bei Yunj. Pursing her lips, she continued. Since your class wants to compete with our class so much and feels aggrieved, doesn't anyone dare to compete with me? Hee-gaing was about to stand up when she heard Bei Yunj speak. Are you looking for trouble? Hee-gaing froze and slowly turned to look at Bei Yunj. She had a bad feeling. Indeed. Seeing Bei Yunj looking at Guo Qingning with a faint smile and lazily twirling the fountain pen in his hand, the danger in his eyes was obvious. Hee-gaing did not quite understand why Guo Qingning wanted to provoke Bei Yunj as well. What good could this do? Yunj, calm down. The questions on the screen were all set by the special training department. Even I'm worried about it. Hee-gaing grabbed Bei Yunj's hand and said in a low voice. The questions on the screen? Bei Yunj glanced at the questions not far away, and then glanced at the others. At this moment, the teacher of Class 1 recognized Bei Yunj and said in a mocking tone, Do you want to give it a try? Hee-gaing pressed down on Bei Yunj's hand, calmly took a deep breath and tried to stand up on her own. But in the next second, Bei Yunj stood up and walked over to the screen. She casually glanced at Class 1, and then at Class 2. What did Class 1 do? Class 1's teacher smiled. Of course. He answered 6 questions correctly. If you can also answer 6 questions correctly, if I can do everything right, can Class 2 go back earlier? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and asked unhurriedly. The teachers of Class 1 felt that Bei Yunj did not know the immensity of the world. The captains couldn't help but snicker. These questions were specially used by the special training department to deal with those who thought they had some talent and could look down on the rules. To be able to go against the 6 paths of reincarnation was already an incredible feat. Was there anyone who wanted to get everything right? Class 2 lowered their heads, not daring to look at this tragic scene. If you do it right, you can do whatever you want in the future. The captain chuckled, not believing in this. Guo Qingning only smiled and deliberately emphasized the word gap. Student, don't misunderstand. I just want everyone to know what the gap is. You don't have to force yourself. There are only 2 spots in the laboratory. It's understandable for the teachers to give more resources to Class 1. Bei Yunj snorted, her bright eyes unruly. She sat in front of the computer, held the mouse and said leisurely, "You guys are quite serious when you're accompanying him." Instantly, Guo Qingning's expression changed. P.S. Yesterday's update will continue tonight. Pinch face. Thank you for helping Master Pei. Chapter 977. The teachers of Class 1 were also looking at Bei Yunj with an uncertain expression. Fortunately, they did not keep this person in Class 1. Such an arrogant and unruly character was hopeless. At first, the people around also thought that Bei Yunj was being arrogant. She did not know how difficult the questions in the special training department were. The captains were discussing. This researcher from Class 2 is really bold. The captain of Class 2 shook his head. She's too young. Are the people from the special training department easy to deal with? Aren't these questions used to crush the self-confidence of these young people who think they're so great? The captains all smiled tacitly. 10 minutes passed. Hearing the sound of Bei Yunj typing on the keyboard, someone from Class 2 whispered, "She seems to have been doing the questions. Can she really solve a few questions?" The people from Class 1 answered first and said sarcastically, "She's been doing the questions? Look at her speed. Does it look like she's doing it seriously?" Everyone thought about how Guo Qingning's solving speed was not very fast. In comparison, Bei Yunj was simply messing around. If she can't beat her, then so be it. She lost too badly. Someone from Class 1 mocked. That's right. Guo Qingning was highly regarded by the captains as soon as she came in. She's young and talented. How can she be compared to Guo Qingning? Below the stage, Guo Qingning smiled but did not say anything. She just watched quietly and wondered how the person on the stage was going to beat her. In less than 20 minutes. Suddenly, the sound of the keyboard stopped. Everyone subconsciously looked at Bei Yunj. Suddenly, they saw the process of Bei Yunj answering all the questions on the screen. Then, a line of words appeared on the screen. "Congratulations, student. You've answered all the questions correctly." In an instant, everyone in the room froze. The smiles of the captains who were chatting also froze. This was the first time they saw this line of words on the machine. They felt a chill down their backs. How long did she take to do the questions just now? I think, less than 20 minutes. As soon as the words fell, many people's expressions cracked. Just now, Guo Qingning had done it for an hour, and only answered 6 questions. What was this person doing? The teacher of Class 1 almost lost his balance. His expression changed drastically, and his voice was trembling. How is that possible? Guo Qingning also felt cold all over. She stared at the line of words on the screen. She only took 10 minutes to answer 10 questions? Then, after the others gradually came back to their senses, they realized that Bei Yunj was still typing, until someone from Class 2 looked down at their computer. What's going on? My computer screen black. Mine too. What's going on? He Gying was the first person to have a strange premonition when she saw the computer screen suddenly turn black. She looked up very slowly at Bei Yunj. "Bei, what are you doing?" The captains also quickly realized that the problem with Class 2's computer was related to the person on the stage. Their faces were filled with horror. "Bei." Suddenly, this scene made one's scalp tingle. Bei Yunj, stop it. Do you hear me? Stop it. The captains felt extremely suffocated when they saw Bei Yunj playing on the computer. The others also began to feel that this Bei Yunj was simply terrifying. Where did this humanoid bug come from? End of chapter. Chapter 978. Bei Yunj said slowly soon. Wait for me to adjust the hot water in the bathhouse. He Gang was speechless. This person was too wild. Which research institute is this student from? Someone from class 1 found his voice. The person next to him said instinctively, okay, I think it's the Computing Institute. Instantly, the atmosphere was cold and strange. Okay, no wonder. It turned out that he was a god in his field. What kind of gods are there in the Computing Institute this year? His tone was respectful. At the mention of the Computing Institute, who wouldn't know what kind of gods there were in the Computing Institute? In the end, the team leaders were so angry that their faces changed. They shouted angrily, "What's wrong with the computer in your class? What are you trying to do? Do you want to go to heaven?" Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows. He was indescribably high-spirited. He said calmly, "The computer will automatically restore the program tomorrow. It can't be done tonight." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone understood what was going on. Bei Yunj was creating a forced break for class 2. True enough, the team leaders couldn't do anything about Bei Yunj. It was because Zhong Shenglin often came to District 1 to wander around. Everyone knew how protective Zhong Shenglin was of his people. They didn't dare to touch the people from the Computing Institute. The team leaders were so angry that they felt dizzy. They laughed. Do you think you're very powerful? I'm not very powerful, but there's still a gap. Bei Yunj's unhurried words made Class 1 feel as if there was a fishbone stuck in their throat. Guo Qingning's face also turned red. She bit her lip and looked at Bei Yunj angrily. The program I set is not difficult. If you want to solve it, you can give it a try. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, the team leaders and Class 1's teachers were angry, but didn't dare to say anything. No matter how bad the people from the Computing Institute were, they were still gods in their field. They still wanted to try? Soon, Bei Yunj said a few words to He Gang. Then he glanced at Class 1's teachers casually, sneered and left. Class 1's teachers gritted their teeth. Not long after White Bear came back, he heard that there was a troublemaker in Class 2 who had hacked into the district's system and taken control of the entire control room. Even the computer in my class was hacked. However, after the crowd dispersed, He Gu Inkai said to Class 2, "The computer will be back to normal in half an hour. If any of you still want to practice, you can go back to the dormitory to practice." Class 2. So, Bei Yunj was just fooling the captain and the teachers just now? What's so great about that? Wasn't it just hacking a computer? You came from a computing institute. If you don't even know this, wouldn't you have learned it for nothing? Some students in Class 1 couldn't help but feel jealous. Don't speak without thinking. Which King Computing Institute taught this? The people from Class 2 laughed. The people from the Institute of Computing will still torture and kill a bunch of you from the School of Physics and Chemistry. Student, vegetables are the original sin. He Gang smiled slightly. You. The girl gritted her teeth, and Guo Qingning, who was next to her, left with an unwilling look on her face. However, the next day, early in the morning, Bei Yunj was invited to the administration building for tea. Zhong Shenglin and Old Master Lung were both there, as well as a middle-aged man in his 40s. He should be the director of the special training department. He still didn't know Bei Yunj's identity. His anger did not dissipate. You can do whatever you want with the people you love. Old Master Lung pretended not to hear. Zhong Shenglin echoed in a deep voice. Director Han is right. Guther, explain why you hacked the system in the district? End of chapter. Chapter 979. Bei Yunj glanced at them. She thought for a moment. Because there's no hot water in the bathhouse. Zhong Shenglin glared and questioned Old Master Lung. How can there be no hot water in the bathhouse? Old Master Lung was speechless. Director Han was speechless. Bei Yunj stood beside Zhong Shenglin. There's a power outage in the dormitory at night. Zhong Shenglin slammed the table angrily and stood up. How can there be a power outage in the dormitory? What era do you think this is? Old Zhong. Old Master Lung's eyelids twitched. Originally, he had dragged Zhong Shenglin to scold Bei Yunj, but Zhong Shenglin turned around and scolded them instead. Director Han was so angry that his vision darkened. Zhong, is this your biological granddaughter? Why are you spoiling her so much? So what if I spoil her? If you don't like her, I'll take her away now. In the future, I won't lend her to you even if you kneel and beg me. Zhong Shenglin was also furious. He dragged Bei Yunj and prepared to leave. Old Zhong. Calm down, I'll handle this matter. Old Master Lung immediately stopped him. Director Han found it even more ridiculous. He sneered. Zhong Shenglin, dream on. I'm still begging you to lend her. You. Zhong Shenglin was furious. Enough. Old Master Lung took a deep breath. The same goes for the Special Training Department. Why are the young people in the Research Institute so strict? We'll restore the 24-hour hot water supply in the future. Director Han's face was livid. He put on a fake smile. It still needs to be restored? This morning, the people in the control room called and said that the background system can't be changed. Old Master Lung was speechless. Not long after, Old Master Lung turned around. Old Zhong, I'll settle this matter. You can go back first. Zhong Shenglin also turned around, but said to Bei Yunj, Gur, the people in our computing institute are not to be bullied. If there's anything, call me. At most, we'll go back to the institute. Director Han gritted his teeth at this protective behavior. Okay, you can go back first. Bei Yunj's eyes curved. After Zhong Shenglin left, Chief Han sat on the sofa and couldn't help but say angrily, unreasonable. Elder Lung, I want to arrange a private room, Bei Yunj suddenly said. Director Han was so angry that he laughed out loud. Do you know where you are? Why should I arrange an individual room for you? Old Master Lung was about to say something when he suddenly saw the information that Zhong Shenglin had sent him from the corner of his eye. He was stunned for a moment and subconsciously opened it to take a look. It was Bei Yunj's psychological diagnosis. Bipolar I patient. Description of the condition. It can be divided into depressive episodes, manic episodes or mixed episodes. Anxiety, emotional instability, severe insomnia, and other symptoms. Old Master Lung used to be in the military and had seen such patients by chance. This was not a simple psychological barrier. He couldn't even use ordinary antidepressants as it might trigger a manic attack. Moreover, the patient he saw had committed suicide at home after leaving the team due to severe depression. Old Master Lung subconsciously looked up at Bei Yunj. Other than the red veins in his eyes, there was nothing unusual about him. How about this? I haven't lived in the house assigned to me in the district for 2 to 3 years. When you live in the district, you can stay at my place. Old Master Lung gave the key to Bei Yunj. Director Han turned around in disbelief. What? When he wanted to change Old Master Lung's house, Old Master Lung didn't agree. Now he was actually letting this little girl stay there. Look at how angry you've made Director Han. I'll punish you by not going to the cafeteria for lunch today. Have a good class in the afternoon, do you hear me? Old Master Lung pretended to reprimand him. End of chapter. Chapter 980. However, after Director Han left, at noon, Bei Yunj sat opposite Old Master Lung and looked at the dishes on the table. They were exquisite and delicious. It was obvious that this meal was not cheap either. Hurry up and eat. Don't go to the cafeteria for lunch anymore. Come over and eat. Old Master Lung glanced at Bei Yunj and picked up his chopsticks. Bei Yunj looked at Old Master Lung's plain clothes and deliberated for a moment. This meal is quite expensive, right? Old Master Lung looked up. Who are you looking down on? Bei Yunj was speechless. All right, I've saved a lot in my life. How can I be poor when treating a junior to a meal? Old Master Lung took a can of food for Bei Yunj and said, Didn't they say that girls are better than boys now? Why are you even more delicate than those young master soldiers sent by your family? Bei Yunj glanced at the things on the table. I have this can. You have it. Old Master Lung was stunned. Wasn't this distributed by the district? Could it be that they were selling it outside too? Take a few cans first. There aren't any shops here. Old Master Lung stuffed the things to Bei Yunj. In the afternoon, at the laboratory base, 2 classes were in class together. For some reason, there was a power outage. Higaing, why isn't Bei Yunj here? Class 2 suddenly asked. Before Higaing could speak, someone from Class 1 answered first. She was in the limelight yesterday. Didn't she offend someone, and was brought in for questioning? Another person giggled and said, maybe she has to pack her things and get lost? At the same time, Gua Qingning, who was recording the experimental data, stopped writing and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. You have to be capable to be in the limelight. Didn't your Class 1 come to our Class 2 to pick people personally? After Higaing said this, Gua Qingning's expression quickly turned ugly. She stood up with a livid expression and threw down her pen. No matter how the people behind her called out to her, she walked out of the laboratory. However, she did not expect to bump into someone the moment she stepped out. Before Gua Qingning could flare up, she saw something hidden in his pocket fall out. The boy immediately picked it up and put it back into his pocket. Gua Qingning was expressionless. What is this? Student Gua. Gua Qingning didn't say anything and wanted to leave. Seeing this, the boy hurriedly pulled Gua Qingning back. He made up his mind and said in a low voice, it's the exam content of the special training department. Higaing's body froze. Are you crazy? How could he not know where they were? How dare he steal the answers here? There was a power outage in the building just now. The surveillance cameras can't detect me. The boy grabbed Gua Qingning's wrist. Miss Gua, don't report me. I can give you the answer. At that time, the 2 of us will enter the laboratory together. Gua Qingning flung his hand away. No need. The boy gritted his teeth. Gua Qingning, other than Bei Yunj, there is also Higaing in Class 2. Higaing was from the first research institute of the National Defense Department. In the morning's test results, she was first and you were second. These words successfully made Gua Qingning stand firm. She turned around and said in a gloomy tone, what did you say? In addition, Bei Yunj was called away. Are you sure you don't need the answer in my hand? The boy smiled. Gua Qingning's face was gloomy. When Bei Yunj returned to the laboratory, the electricity in the district had already been restored. As soon as she entered, she heard the discussion inside. I say, your class does have all kinds of crooked people. Since when did people from the Computing Institute have the right to participate in our experimental special training? P.S. I've been busy these 2 days and haven't updated much. I'll make up for it today. End of chapter. Chapter 981. Bei Yunj glanced at the boy at the table next to her calmly, and did not say anything. She only casually swept her windbreaker. Yunj over here. Higaing waved at Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj hummed in response and walked towards Higaing. But suddenly, the bespectacled boy sneered again, as if he was sure that Bei Yunj would not dare to cause trouble. After all, the teacher today was the form teacher of Class 1. I say, it's fine if some people use computers, but how dare a layman pretend to be ignorant? Why don't you go back early and stop embarrassing yourself outside? Student Pei, am I right? Before you act arrogantly, you have to see what kind of person you are. At this moment, Bei Yunj stopped in her tracks with one hand in her windbreaker. Before the rest of the people could mock her, the teacher outside had already pushed open the door. When she saw Bei Yunj walking around, her tone was a little bad. Bei Yunj, why are you still standing there? Bei Yunj licked her red lips and suddenly laughed. She turned around and smiled lazily at the teacher of Class 1, but there was no hostility in her upturned beautiful eyes. Teacher, let me borrow you for a while. You dashed before the teacher of Class 1 could speak. Bei Yunj suddenly turned around and walked towards the last row. Before anyone could react, she grabbed the collar of the bespectacled boy in the last row. This commotion scared some of the timid girls present. Their hearts were in their throats. The expression of the teacher of Class 1 changed. She pointed at Bei Yunj angrily. Bei Yunj, What are you doing? How dare you cause trouble here? Teacher, is this your first time seeing me cause trouble? Bei Yun's tone was gentle, but her eyes were wild and bright. Her words made the teacher of Class 1's face turn green with anger. Do you believe that I'll chase you out? As the teacher of Class 1 spoke, Bei Yun grabbed that person's collar with one hand and dragged him out. She dragged him until the blue tube on the boy's neck exploded and his face turned red. The teacher of Class 1 had already made a call and asked the captains to come over and solve the problem. At the door. Pay. Before that person could speak, Bei Yun suddenly kicked him in the stomach. It was so painful that the veins on his forehead bulged. He could barely straighten his legs as he knelt in front of Bei Yun, trembling. Bei Yun lifted the man's collar with one hand. Her bright and beautiful eyes were not filled with strong hostility, but it almost made one's scalp tingle. How can you kneel at the beginning? Everyone in the classroom was terrified when they saw this. Fortunately, she did not join that person in mocking Bei Yun. Initially, he had thought that he was a pushover, but in the end, he was a tough nut to crack. But to beat someone up in the district, he was really not afraid of death. At this moment, Bei Yun, how dare you? Before the man could finish his sentence, he was punched a few more times. His face was bruised and his eyes were filled with fear. He almost could not stand up. Bei Yun grabbed him by the collar and pressed him against the wall. In fact, she had already made it difficult for him to breathe, but she still patted his face kindly. Her beautiful eyes were clear and unrestrained as she asked with a smile. Think about it carefully. Do I need a reason to be arrogant? No need. That person was stunned and shook his head frantically. At this moment, the captains had already arrived. Over there. What are you doing? Stop what you're doing. One of the captains held an electric baton and pointed it at the two figures over there. Chapter 982. Soon. The teacher of Class 1 walked over angrily. Look. Bei Yun from Class 2 is too much. How dare she hit a student in front of me? What is this? She's a hooligan. Then, the captains realized that something was wrong. It was a girl? Why is it you again? The captain of Class 1 looked angry when he saw Bei Yun. Didn't you just get reprimanded at the government building? The atmosphere was tense. This was the first time they had met such a stubborn person. She was even more arrogant than the teachers in the district. This student must get out of here. Do you think she can stay in the laboratory? The teacher of Class 1 was so angry that he couldn't speak clearly. Let's go to the office first. The captains looked at the surrounding students and made the decision together. After they entered the office, everyone in the laboratory was dead silent. What should we do? Will Bei Yun be okay? Someone from Class 2 whispered. The students of Class 1 sneered. Who does she think she is? How dare she hit someone in front of a teacher from the special training department? She'll definitely be expelled this time. That's right. Your Class 2 will definitely be implicated by her, and will have a hard time. He glanced at them and said coldly, when Bei Yun comes later, you can say it in front of her. You. The students of Class 1's expression changed and they all shut their mouths. After all, the scene of Bei Yun beating someone up was still vivid in their minds. A few minutes later, He-gying couldn't sit still anymore and wanted to go and see Bei Yun. However, she was stopped by the teacher of Class 2, who had just returned. Suddenly, look, Captain Bai is here too. His words attracted the attention of everyone in the classroom, including Guo Qingning. The corners of her lips curled up. She knew that with White Bear's character, he would definitely not allow anyone to protect Bei Yun. Guo Qingning picked up her pen and continued to record the data. In the office, the boy was crying and complaining about how Bei Yun had hit him just now. After hearing this, the leader of Class 1 looked at Bei Yun. Do you have anything to refute? Bei Yun said slowly, no. Class 1's teacher laughed angrily. Look. This was a person who wouldn't change no matter what. She's a disaster if she stays in the special training department. The rest of the people could tell that the teacher of Class 1 wanted to use their words to get Bei Yun out of this special training class. However, Captain Bai. Someone suddenly shouted. What happened here? White Bear took a look at the situation. Just as he finished his question, the teacher from Class 1 came up to him and complained. Captain Bai, you don't know how hateful the students from Class 2 are. How dare you hit my student in front of me for no reason? What right does this kind of person have to stay in the district and not leave? Is he treating us like a joke? However, when White Bear was about to sit on the sofa, he suddenly felt that the girl by the window looked a little familiar. His heart skipped a beat as he fixed his gaze on the little girl in front of him. Miss Pei? Bai Yunj turned around and saw a familiar big guy. White Bear. White Bear's eyes lit up. He was so excited that he started to talk incoherently. His footsteps were as quick as the wind as he walked over to Bai Yunj. It's really you, Miss Pei. Why are you back again? Did you do something wrong again and got sent here? This is great. Bai Yunj. End of chapter. Chapter 983. The rest of the students were also shocked by this scene. What's going on? Could it be that Bai Yunj and Captain Bai knew each other? The student who was beaten up earlier froze, and didn't dare to think further about this matter. I'm here for special training, Bai Yunj clarified. You still need special training? White Bear found it hard to believe. After a while, he suddenly thought of something. Wait a minute. You were the one who controlled the system last night? Bai Yunj. Yes. White Bear. He should have thought of it earlier. Besides this little ancestor, who would dare to control the system in the black zone? Suddenly, someone coughed to remind White Bear of the serious matter. Captain Bai? White Bear also remembered. Why did you beat him up? I'm teaching him how to talk, Bai Yunj said casually. White Bear, who knew Bai Yunj's temper very well, could roughly guess the cause and effect of this incident. White Bear turned to look at the boy and his tone became cold. Student, you know that if you create trouble in the police station, you'll be sent out of the district, right? The teacher was dumbfounded. Captain Bai, it's Bai Yunj who. I know very well that Miss Pei won't take the initiative to create trouble. White Bear's words obviously showed that he was on Bai Yunj's side. Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at White Bear in disbelief. White Bear didn't even care about Guo Qingming, who seemed to be the chosen one. Why would he defend Bai Yunj, who created trouble on her first day? Brother Bear, I'll go back to class then. Bai Yunj saw that someone had cleaned up the mess, and was about to leave without feeling embarrassed. Wait a minute. White Bear suddenly took out a box of strawberry biscuits from his office and passed it to Bai Yunj. He couldn't hide the pride in his tone. I know you're not used to eating in the canteen. Take this to fill your stomach. I've hidden it secretly. I knew you'd come back sooner or later. Bai Yunj's eyelid twitched. Okay. The rest of the people were also surprised to see White Bear giving these snacks to Bai Yunj openly. White Bear had never violated the rules. How could he hide these things for Bai Yunj secretly? In the laboratory, everyone could not help but be shocked when they saw Bai Yunj walk in. Not only was she safe and sound, there was even a box of strawberry biscuits in her hand. Yunj, you're fine. He Guying was relieved. Yes. Bai Yunj put the biscuits. These biscuits, He Guying. Someone gave it to me, Bai Yunj said concisely. However, the people around him couldn't believe it. The students of Class 1 watched as their teacher angrily slammed the door and left. Then, a few days later, everyone immediately understood what was going on. Every time there was physical training, the vice captain of Class 1, White Bear, would come over and deliver food to Bai Yunj. He would even give Class 2 more time to rest. White Bear had the highest rank among them, but he didn't often manage the special training class, so he was the vice captain of the class. Miss Pei, are you used to eating in the canteen? White Bear couldn't help asking. I eat in the administrative building. After Bai Yunj said this, White Bear knew that he wasn't the only one who was opening a back door for Bai Yunj. Then do you live in the dormitory? White Bear probed. Bai Yunj glanced at him. No. End of chapter. Chapter 984. Are you staying here alone? Block 017 or Block 020? White Bear remembered that these two blocks were the only ones with individual dormitories. Bae-yunj thought for a while. South Block 102. As soon as she finished speaking, White Bear, who had just taken a sip of water, choked and coughed. South Block. White Bear's voice trembled a little. The South Block was where the real big shots of the district lived. Moreover, most of the residents in the South District were at the level of the founding fathers of the country. What's the matter? Didn't you get that house? Bae-yunj ate a biscuit lazily. White Bear. Was she staying in the staff's dormitory? Why would she get a house? The houses in the South Block are only for the big shots of the district, especially this one. White Bear tried to control his volume, but couldn't hide his excitement. Who gave you this house? It's just temporary. Bae-yunj glanced at him and wiped the biscuit crumbs on her fingers. I'll go back first. Not far away. Class 1 saw that White Bear came to look for Bae-yunj every day, and their expressions didn't look too good. This was their vice captain, yet he went to look for Bae-yunj every day. Qingning, the results of the assessment are out. You're still the first in class. After the class monitor said that, everyone rushed forward to look at the ranking. Gua Qingning stood in front of the ranking board, but her expression didn't look too good. She clenched her fists and said in a strange tone, "Why is there someone from class 2 who didn't take the assessment?" "Who knows? I think it's Bae-yunj from class 2. She's always absent when it's time for the assessment." Another person's tone was somewhat thought-provoking. "Didn't you see? Captain Bai cares so much about her. Last time when she hit someone, no one dared to intervene. If she's not a backdoor entrant, then what is she?" The students from class 1 were discussing sarcastically. If it's Bae-yunj, and He-gaing got first place twice in a row, doesn't that mean Gua Qingning? That person stopped halfway, and didn't dare to continue. Gua Qingning's expression was gloomy and she didn't say anything. "What are you talking about? Qingning will definitely be able to get in with her own strength. If Bae-yunj gets in because of her connections, I think this laboratory will be meaningless." Although she heard them say that, Gua Qingning still walked out with a sullen face. At this moment, the boy who had given her the answers last time glanced at the empty corridor and walked to Gua Qingning's side. "Gua Qingning, did you hear that? In this test, we'll rely on our own abilities. If Bae-yunj can get in through the back door, why can't you fight for a fair path for yourself?" Gua Qingning clenched her fists. After a long time, the boy heard her speak. "Where did you hide it?" When the boy heard this, he laughed. Even He-gaing was a little nervous when the real test ended. "Yunj, are you nervous?" Bae-yunj chewed on her candy and played with her phone. "What? Examination. Aren't you nervous about your results? Don't you want to know if you can enter?" After several assessments, He-gaing was on par with Gua Qingning. Naturally, she was under a lot of pressure. Bae-yunj said slowly, "It's expected. Why are you nervous?" He-gaing was speechless. How could this person, who was called to be lectured at least 3 days a week and didn't have time to attend classes, be so confident? "What's your accuracy rate for those questions?" He-gaing asked as she rubbed her hands. 100%. He-gaing was speechless. This was no longer a simple confidence. End of chapter. Chapter 985. He-gaing looked at Bae-yunj for a while and patted Bae-yunj's shoulder. She sighed and said, "It's good to be young." Bae-yunj was speechless. It was difficult to continue this topic. However, the results would be announced the day after the assessment. However, the next day, Bae-yunj had just arrived at the conference hall when she heard many people discussing. It was said that someone had stolen the exam questions this time, and the special training department was investigating. No one noticed that Gua Qingning looked a little uneasy. Bae-yunj had just arrived when He-gaing pulled her back. "Yunj, did you hear that? Someone is so bold to steal the exam questions." Bae-yunj replied casually, not paying much attention to it. He-gaing was speechless. Why didn't this fellow have any gossipy heart? Before He-gaing could say anything, she saw the teacher of class 1 walk in hurriedly. "Everyone can take a look at the ranking of this assessment. The teacher of Class 1 distributed the name list and glanced at Bei Yunj before she sneered. This time, she wanted to see who could protect Bei Yunj. Guo Qingning is first, He Gaiying is second. Everyone was shocked. Only He Gaiying sensed that something was wrong. She did not see Bei Yunj in the top 10. He Gaiying frowned and looked down. She did not expect Bei Yunj to be last. However, Bei Yunj's results were full marks. Not only He Gaiying, even Bei Yunj could see this situation clearly. Her bright and exquisite eyes looked casual, but she licked the tip of her teeth and her temper rose. She was starting to use such a lousy trick on her? Teacher Li, what do you mean? Why is Bei Yunj at the bottom even though she scored full marks? He Gaiying stood up and questioned. Do you still have to ask why? Doesn't Bei Yunj know it herself? Teacher Li laughed coldly. Everyone already knew that the exam papers were stolen. They just wanted to give that person one last chance. And the result? Bei Yunj, you're really brave. You memorized the answers so well. You must have put in a lot of effort, right? His words made Guo Qingning feel a little relieved, but she couldn't calm down, because the second last boy was the one who gave her the answer. He had also been discovered. She couldn't be sure that Dongqing wouldn't rat her out, even though they had already made an agreement. I draw a clear line between public and private affairs. Other than Bei Yunj, Dongqing from our class is also the most suspicious. I won't let any of them off. After Teacher Li finished speaking, Dongqing's face turned pale. He hurriedly shook his head. Teacher, I was just possessed. I didn't do it on purpose. Dongqing, tell us who the main culprit is. If you explain it clearly, I can ask the higher-ups to be lenient, Teacher Li said. Dongqing lowered his head. His eyes darted around and his body trembled. Soon, he gritted his teeth and suddenly pointed at Bei Yunj. Teacher. She was the one who instigated me. Guo Qingning heaved a sigh of relief, and the corners of her mouth turned up slightly. Don't talk nonsense. He Gaiying scolded. He Gaiying. Teacher Li glanced coldly at He Gaiying, and then looked at Bei Yunj. Do you have anything to say? Bei Yunj sat in her seat, and played with her pen lazily. She sneered and looked at her leisurely. I stole the answers. How could you find out? As soon as she finished speaking, Teacher Li's expression changed. The others suddenly remembered that Bei Yunj hacked the system last time. End of chapter. Chapter 986. If Bei Yunj had stolen the answers, she did not even need to go to the special training department. However, Teacher Li's face was ashen. Bei Yunj, are you trying to make things difficult for me? She sneered. Do you think I've wronged you? But other than you and Dongqing, everyone else's ranking is normal. Very soon, before Teacher Li could continue speaking, someone rushed in from outside. Teacher Li, Director Han wants the first and second place, as well as the last and second place that you've selected, to go to his office. Teacher Li's expression softened slightly. She sneered at Bei Yunj. Now that you've reached Director Han's office, let's see how you're going to deal with this. When Guo Qingning heard this, she could not help but feel a little flustered. She clenched her fists tightly. It seemed that someone had to take the blame for this matter. Guo Qingning's gaze swept over Bei Yunj. A dark glint flashed across her eyes. Before she left, she sent a message to her mentor. After these people left, White Bear and the rest arrived. White Bear knew that things had gotten out of hand and hurriedly went outside to make a call. In the office, Director Han. When the questions were stolen back then, we all knew in our hearts. This time, we've also agreed to find the culprit. Since the matter is now so clear, do we still need to hesitate? In the entire special training department, Bei Yunj is the only one who scored full marks. In all these years, have we ever had anyone who scored full marks? Teacher Li complained agitatedly. Bei Yunj, do you have anything to explain? Director Han looked at Bei Yunj and asked coldly. He had never thought that Zhong Xinglin's people would have such a bad habit. What's there to explain? Bei Yunj retorted indifferently. Director Han pointed at Bei Yunj and said angrily, Bei Yunj, you. Bei Yunj licked her lips and sneered softly. It's quite surprising. In all these years in the special training department, no one has scored full marks. He Gaing, who was originally burning with anxiety, was speechless. Good fellow. At this time, this ancestor was still adding fuel to the fire? Teacher Li's face was a little twisted, but she still sneered and asked, Bei Yunj, you're still stubborn, aren't you? She continued. Okay. Now that the top 4 are all here, let's do another mock exam. I'll see if you can still achieve this result. After saying this, Guo Qingning's pupils shrank as she subconsciously clenched her fists. However, just as Chief Han was about to speak, a deep voice suddenly came from the door. What's the matter? Why must you take the test again? Everyone turned their heads and saw Mo Yanjin, the director of the Yunqing Institute of Physics. Director Han stood up and looked surprised. Why is Mr. Mo here? Qingning is the most talented student in our academy, and is also this humble one's granddaughter. This time, I came here because I heard that there was a problem with the assessment results, so I came to take a look. Mo Yanjin walked over and took Guo Qingning's hand affectionately. She sat down on the sofa as if there was no one else around. Immediately, the others widened their eyes. They didn't expect Guo Qingning to be Mo Yanjin's granddaughter. No wonder Guo Qingning could enter Class 1 as soon as she entered the special training class. Of course, this is not Student Guo's problem. Teacher Li immediately smiled and said, Student Guo's results in the special training class are excellent, very outstanding. Qingning has been obedient since she was a child. Of course, I don't think it's her problem. Mo Yanjin glanced at the others. I'm just here to say that the juniors of our Mo family are not to be bullied. End of chapter. Chapter 987. Yes, you're right. Teacher Li hurriedly smiled. That's why we're going to let them retake the exam, and see who's the one with the wrong results. Mo Yanjin laughed and asked, why should Qingning be implicated by other people's problems? Guo Qingning heaved a sigh of relief when she heard this. She said softly, Grandpa, I already said that I won't rely on you for this. But you're the younger generation of the Mo family. You have to remember that with Grandpa around, no one can force you. After Old Master Mo finished speaking, Teacher Li hurriedly replied, Old Master Mo is right. We'll let the remaining 3 retake the exam. He Gaing came in first 4 times out of the 6 assessments this month. The only 2 times she came in second were only 1 or 2 points less than classmate Guo, said Director Han calmly. Guo Qingning's body stiffened. But this time, classmate Guo scored 30 to 40 points more than He Gaing, and the questions were more difficult. So I think it's better for them to retake the exam together. Director Han threw the report card on the table, intending to do business. Director Han, are you suspecting that there's something wrong with Qingning? Mo Yanjin narrowed his eyes, his tone sounding a little hostile. Everyone else in the special training department trembled in fear when they saw this scene. But soon, someone reminded Director Han of something. Guo Qingning was transferred to Class 1 by that person. Even if he didn't want to give anyone face, he couldn't afford to offend that person. Director Han's expression darkened. He pursed his lips and remained silent. Grandpa, Director Han didn't mean anything else. Guo Qingning smiled. She glanced at Pei Yunj casually as a sense of superiority rose in her heart. Maybe he was confused by student Pei's attitude. Classmate Pei. Mo Yanjin frowned. Teacher Li quickly smiled and said, Old Master Mo, it's Bei Yunj from Class 2. She's the only one who scored full marks in this assessment. Full marks? Mo Yanjin's tone carried a hint of mockery. Little girl, do you know that none of us from the older generation got full marks in the special training class back then? Bei Yunj glanced at him lazily, her eyes still unruly. She said slowly, it's quite shocking. Everyone present was speechless. He Gaing wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. However, among them, Mo Yanjin's expression was the ugliest. So young, yet so arrogant. Mo Yanjin placed the teacup on the table and said in a deep voice, I don't want to argue with a junior. However, since someone dared to cheat here, they still had to bear the consequences. Dragging Mo Yanjin's granddaughter into this, then shouldn't you at least apologize to my granddaughter? What do you think? Everyone knew what was going on. Mo Yanjin wanted to press her head down and confess to her crime so that Pei Yunj and Yu Yuehan would apologize to Guo Qingning. The main purpose of this was to embarrass Bei Yunj. Guo Qingning glanced at Bei Yunj and smiled. She couldn't help but feel proud. Sir, I don't think Bei Yunj cheated. He Gang frowned. This student, do you think I'm wrong, or do you think I'm not worthy of your respect? Mo Yanjin asked with a cold face. No one dared to offend Mo Yanjin. I'm doing this to teach some people a lesson. Mo Yanjin's eyes were filled with mockery. But then, suddenly, a voice rang out from outside the door with a sneer. I'd like to see who's the one worrying about my loved ones instead of worrying about their own coffin. End of chapter. Chapter 988. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone felt that this voice was familiar, and subconsciously turned their heads to look. They didn't expect the person in front of them to be Zhong Shenglin. Zhong, it's Elder Zhong. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Although many people knew that Bei Yunj was from the Computing Institute, they didn't expect Zhong Shenglin to come in person. After all, Mo Yanjin was Guo Qingning's biological grandfather. However, they had never heard of Zhong Shenglin having a granddaughter. Before everyone could come back to their senses, they saw that there was someone beside Zhong Shenglin. It was actually Professor Yu Guang, the former director of the National Defense First Research Institute. Yu Guang desperately tugged at Zhong Shenglin's sleeve, reminding Zhong Shenglin to pay attention to his image. Unexpectedly, Zhong Shenglin turned to look at him. Yu Guang, if you pull my sleeve again, I'll make you pay for it. Yu Guang. The expression on Mo Yanjin's face froze. She didn't expect to see Zhong Shenglin and Yu Guang. Elder Zhong and Elder Yu are here? Mo Yanjin asked stiffly. Zhong Shenglin looked straight ahead as he brushed past Mo Yanjin and walked to Bei Yunj. Gur, did someone bully you? As soon as Yu Guang walked over, Director Han bowed slightly to him. Director Yu. After all, he was also from the National Defense First Research Institute. What's going on? After Yu Guang finished asking, Teacher Li interrupted. Someone stole the exam questions. When the exam results came out this time, only Bei Yunj got full marks. These words were just short of pointing at Bei Yunj's nose and accusing her of cheating. Yu Guang. He shouldn't have let Bei Yunj go through the proper procedures. When he was in the special training department, he didn't get full marks either. Ask Lung to come here. If this matter isn't resolved properly, don't borrow people from me in the future. Zhong Shenglin's face darkened as he roared. Everyone was scared witless. They didn't expect Zhong Shenglin, who had always been good-tempered, to be so angry. Mo Yanjin felt embarrassed. Mr. Zhong, someone has identified Bei Yunj. Identify? Who identified him? From Zhong Shenglin's tone, it was obvious that he was here to settle scores. Dongqing braced himself. Elder Zhong, it's me. Are you very close to Guer? Zhong Shenglin asked indifferently. No. Then why did she follow you to steal the answers? Dongqing was at a loss for words. His stammering voice became softer and softer. Because I was the one who took the answers and was seen by classmate Pei. So student Pei asked me for. Hearing this, Guo Qingning felt a little better, but a twisted jealousy flashed through her eyes. She did not expect that Zhong Shenglin would actually stand up for Bei Yunj. Then, what everyone did not expect was that Zhong Shenglin would turn around and scold Director Han. Han Kemming, how dare you slander our Guer with such a lousy reason? Zhong Shenglin, Director Yu knows about this matter. Is it possible for Bei Yunj to get full marks? Director Han frowned. He felt that Zhong Shenglin was being unreasonable. Yu Guang. It was still because he was too young. Suddenly, Bei Yunj said, let's reassess. Her gaze slowly swept across the people in the special training department. She sneered softly and said in a cold tone, I also hope that the district will give me an explanation after the reassessment. Suddenly, Yu Guang felt a headache coming on. A person who had won the Farisk Prize was now being looked down upon? And the authenticity of a person who scored full marks in a small assessment was being questioned. Who wouldn't be angry if this happened to them? Moreover, Bei Yunj had a bad temper to begin with. Chapter 989. At this moment, Guo Qingning's expression was a little bad. However, Bei Yunj happened to look at her with a faint smile. Student Guo shouldn't have any special privileges. Can you not retake the exam? Guo Qingning, who was relying on Mo Yanjin's support. She could still be a little tougher. But now that Zhong Shenglin was here, how could Mo Yanjin be an exception? After Zhong Shenglin agreed to retake the exam, Mo Yanjin had no choice but to agree. The retake time was 1.5 hours. During this time old Master Lung also came. When Teacher Li saw that Guo Qingning was not in a good state, she knew that the cheating might have something to do with Guo Qingning. An idea quickly appeared in her mind. After hesitating for a moment, determination flashed across Teacher Li's eyes, and she secretly walked out of the office. However, after more than 20 minutes, Bei Yunj finished the questions and submitted the answers. Even Chief Han was stunned by the speed at which he was moving. So fast. Had Bei Yunj already given up? Director Han pulled out the answers doubtfully and checked them carefully one by one. But a few minutes later, Director Han's expression kept changing. How was this possible? How could there be such a correct rate in 20 minutes? After Director Han finished checking the last question, his scalp went numb. Bei Yunj still got full marks. Instantly, the atmosphere in the special training area seemed to have frozen. There was actually someone who could get full marks. The remaining 3 had only finished a third of the questions. After hearing Director Han's words, they were about to collapse. What kind of monster was this? The youngest student in the special training class got a record-breaking full score in the exam? He Gaiying's mouth twitched as well. Thinking of how arrogant she was to teach Bei Yunj questions, she suddenly wanted to slap herself. The results are out. Do you have anything else to say? Zhong Shenglin glanced at everyone expressionlessly. At this moment, Bei Yunj stood up and slowly tied her scarf. She took out the key from her pocket. Old Master Lung, I'll return this key to you first. Old Master Lung, who already knew the cause and effect of the matter, started to panic. Go or keep the key. I don't live in the district anyway. Also, I will definitely seek justice for you. After that, Mo Yanjin's expression was already ugly enough. After everyone finished their assessment, only He Gaiying's results were the most stable. As for Guo Qingning, she was an entire 40 points lower than He Gaiying. Dong Cheng was still at the bottom. Who was the one who cheated? The answer was obvious. And the final result was a slap to everyone's face. In the corridor, I think I heard someone calling for my Guer to apologize. At this moment, Zhong Shenglin started to hold a grudge. Mo Yanjin looked embarrassed. Elder Zhong, I didn't expect Qingning to do such a thing. But Qingning is still young after all. There's no need to hold on to this matter. However, He Gaiying, who was beside her, said faintly, What young? Isn't Bei Yunj the youngest? Elder Mo didn't have this attitude when he asked Yunj to apologize to Guo Qingning just now. Mo Yanjin's face darkened. Before Bei Yunj could say anything, her phone suddenly vibrated. She glanced at the message and quickly put her phone back into her pocket. She glanced at them. She said slowly, I still have something on, so I'll leave the first district first. As for the rest, listen to our old master. With that said, Bei Yunj really left. Coincidentally, Chu saw Bei Yunj leaving quickly from afar. P.S. Master Pei, it's mainly because I have to fall in love. End of chapter. Chapter 990. Elder Chu frowned unconsciously and muttered to himself. Strange, didn't she ask me to go to the special training office? Why did she leave? Elder Chu hesitated for a while before heading to the special training office. At the same time, the atmosphere in the special training office was tense. What are you arguing about? Elder Chu pushed the door open and entered. Old Master Lung was stunned. Elder Chu, why are you here? Suddenly, Teacher Li said excitedly, Elder Chu, you're here. The moment she thought of Bei Yunj's attitude just now, the mockery in her eyes disappeared and she smiled respectfully. I was the one who called you just now. It's about student Gua. Teacher Li knew that Gua Qingning was able to enter class 1 because of Elder Chu. Now that Elder Chu was here, Zhong Shenglin and the rest had to consider Elder Chu's identity even if they wanted to cause trouble. Student Gua? Elder Chu frowned. Who is Student Gua? Instantly, Teacher Li's smile froze and she continued. Weren't you the one who arranged for Gua Qingning to enter class 1 last time? Elder Chu immediately denied it. What nonsense are you talking about? As soon as he finished speaking, the people in the special training office were confused and could not help but look at Elder Chu. Wasn't it Elder Chu who opened the back door for Gua Qingning? This was not a secret in the special training office. Teacher Li was stunned. Elder Chu, but you were the one who personally made the call to arrange this. When did I arrange for Gua Qingning? Didn't I arrange for Bei Yunj? Elder Chu's tone was impatient. However, hearing this, everyone's bodies trembled. Bei Yunj? How did the person arranged by Elder Chu become Bei Yunj? The people in the special training office were stunned. Only then did Teacher Li recall with a pale face that on the day of reporting, other than Gua Qingning, Bei Yunj was also late, so they had gotten the wrong person that day. Gradually, Gua Qingning's face was also pale, and her entire body was trembling. Only then did she realize that the special treatment she received during this period of time belonged to Bei Yunj. Suddenly, everyone also heard He Gu Ying's cold and indifferent words. Aren't you working in the canteen? The teachers in the special training office. What was he talking about? Who would dare to arrange for the retired emperor to get food? He Gaing. Director Han warned her not to spout nonsense. He Gaing stared blankly and carefully probed. Did I make a mistake? But you said last time that you were Yunja's grandfather. Elder Chu coughed lightly when he sensed the gazes around him. I worked in the canteen for a few days. But later, that little girl didn't eat in the canteen. At the mention of this, Elder Chu was infuriated. Old Master Lung. Suddenly, he completely understood who gave Bei Yunj the canned beef in her hands. Arranged to enter class 1? My Guer has an A-rank pass. Why do you need to arrange it? Zhong Xinglin's tone was not very good, and the smell of gunpowder was getting stronger. At this moment Yu Guang, who was at the side, had already noticed that this was a large-scale battle for favor. Is Bei Yunj one of your people? Elder Chu was stunned. But isn't she only in her 20s? Didn't the Institute of Computing only recruit graduate students and above? Besides, Bei Yunj looked like a bad student. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so thick-skinned as to open the back door for Bei Yunj. Zhong Shenglin glanced at him, his attitude still cold. I don't want to say anything else. But today, since my Guer was almost made the scapegoat, the district must give me an explanation. Otherwise, whoever wants to sign the laboratory contract can sign it. Chapter 991. Scapegoat. Elder Chu turned to look at Director Han. What's going on? I asked you to take special care of her, and this is how you take care of her? Director Han's face froze. Elder Chu's eyes were bright as he glanced at the others. His tone was a little cold. So, who was Bei Yunj taking the blame for just now? Instantly, Gua Qingning's face turned pale as she held Mo Yanjin's hand. Grandpa, Elder Chu, this is my granddaughter's fault, but can you do me a favor? Mo Yanjin gritted his teeth and immediately said, I have a student who just joined the 191st laboratory. If the district needs him, I can ask him immediately and arrange for him to come back to work. As soon as he finished speaking, even the teachers of the special training department were stunned. It was the 191st laboratory in Continent K. That was a place where only the elites of various countries were qualified to be selected. What's his name? Director Han could not help but ask. Hearing this, Mo Yanjin heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. Luo Yan. Everyone had an impression of this person. It was said that he was also very talented. They did not expect him to enter the 191st laboratory. Luo Yan is Qingning's senior brother. The two of them have always had a good relationship. He will definitely be willing to help. Mo Yanjin smiled. He was also certain that the district would not give up Luo Yan, who had already entered the 191st laboratory for Bei Yunj. Framing and cheating in the assessment. I will get someone to make an announcement about this. In the future, these two people will also be banned from all work in the district. Unexpectedly, Elder Chu's attitude was still firm as he said coldly, also Mo Yanjin, you should know that framing others in a national assessment like this can be held accountable. Instantly, Mo Yanjin's expression changed. He did not expect that even if he mentioned Luo Yan, Elder Chu would not give him face. Elder Chu, a talent like Luo Yan is exactly what our laboratory needs. Before Teacher Li could finish, Elder Chu's cold gaze shut her up. Grandpa, I don't want to go to jail. Guo Qingning trembled and said helplessly. On what basis? On what basis could they let her off so easily just because they thought that Bei Yunj cheated? In the end, it was her turn and she had to go to jail. Guo Qingning lowered her head, hiding the hatred in her eyes. Not long after, Director Han couldn't help but say, Elder Chu, actually Luo Yan is also on our invitation list. However, Luo Yan did not accept their invitation. After all, with Luo Yan's talent and potential, there were better choices. However, when Zhong Shenglin saw Director Han's attitude, he almost went berserk on the spot. Fortunately, Yu Guang quickly said, It's better to listen to Elder Chu on this matter, Director Han. Yes. Listen to old Zhong. Old Master Leng nodded quickly. If they offended Zhong Shenglin, would they still be able to meet him in the district in the future? Director Han frowned. He didn't understand why Yu Guang didn't care about the big picture, but he couldn't change Elder Chu's decision now. When Zhong Shenglin saw that the attitude of the district was not bad, his expression turned slightly better. But facing Mo Yanjin and his grandson, he still sneered. Old Master Mo, we will pursue this matter to the end. If you don't want anything to happen to your granddaughter, I hope you can find some time to come to my humble home and apologize. Mo Yanjin's face was ashen, and she was so angry that her vision turned black. However, he had no choice but to leave with Guo Qingning. Zhong Shenglin, you'll get into trouble if you do this for a junior. Director Han frowned. Chapter 992. Trouble. Yu Guang was almost angered by his former student. He slammed the confidentiality agreement on the table. Look at yourself first. What trouble did you almost cause? Director Han was about to refute, but after seeing the big words on the agreement, he was stunned. Confidentiality agreement? Did he know something he shouldn't know? Why did he have to sign an agreement? These are the conditions for entering the laboratory and the precautions. The special training department has to take care of everything. Yu Guang glanced at him and said expressionlessly. Director Han's body trembled. He stood up suddenly and asked in disbelief and excitement, The winner of the Ferris Prize this year? She actually came to the laboratory? This was not on the same level as Luo Yan. Elder Chu's hands trembled. Are you talking about that super scientific research genius who is under special protection? Even Elder Chu had heard of this name many times. She was not to be trifled with. You flatter me. Zhong Shenglin smiled at him and said with a fake smile. Our family has only won a few awards. We can't compare to the people who entered the 191st laboratory. This is a serious assessment for you. If she doesn't get special treatment and gets first place, you will say that she cheated. As soon as he finished speaking, Director Han and Elder Chu reacted not long after. Bei Yunj's? Director Han's body stiffened as if he had been struck by lightning. He had never thought that. She was actually not even 20 years old. He had never thought that, with such an identity, she would actually participate in the laboratory assessment. Entering the laboratory, wasn't this overkill? Elder Chu's degree of shock was no less than Director Han's. He had always thought that Bei Yunj was a typical rich second generation who fooled around. In the end, reality played a big trick on him. This girl was actually the S-level special protection target? Gu usually has a good relationship with Captain Liu and Captain Tan, so she planned to come and help. Zhong Shenglin explained their doubts, But these words were more like a slap to their faces. It was burning and painful. It's true that I didn't consider her special identity. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let Gur suffer here. At this moment, only then did Chief Han realize that he had almost given up for Luo Yan. No matter how talented Luo Yan was, he had never won any international awards. But it hadn't even been a year since he'd appeared out of nowhere, but he'd already been nominated for 2 international mega awards. Country R was racking their brains trying to poach him. But in the end, because of the discrimination of the guest's country, he was rejected in a high-profile manner at the award ceremony in Farisk. If it were someone else, would they have the guts to do this? Chief Han's face was stiff, and his mind was in a mess. At the district entrance, Bei Yunj kicked the snow around his feet and put his hands in his pockets lazily. The cold wind was still blowing in his ears, but his eyes kept glancing at the entrance of the district. As expected, in less than 5 minutes, a black Lincoln limousine suddenly stopped at the entrance. As soon as the car door was pushed open, the man's straight and ascetic long legs under his suit pants came into view. Soon, she saw the man's handsome and noble face. However, just as Bei Yunj was contemplating whether or not he should lure the man in first, a voice suddenly rang out. Suddenly, the girl's shy voice sounded from the door. "Mister, what brings you here?" Bei Yunj. It was better to get him home early so as not to attract bees and butterflies. End of chapter. Chapter 993. Bei Yunj had just walked forward when she heard the man's deep and magnetic voice. He said slowly, "I'm here to bring my family home." As soon as he finished speaking, the girl, who was originally full of joy, froze. Then, before she could react, she heard the man suddenly say unhurriedly, "Why are you standing so far away, Yunyan?" The girl followed Huashida's gaze and turned around. She saw an unbelievably beautiful girl. Bei Yunj glanced at him leisurely and walked towards the door without saying a word. It seemed like she did not intend to talk to him. However, the corners of the man's lips curled up. His peach blossom eyes were half closed, and the curve of his smile was light and seductive. He gently held the girl's wrist with one hand. "You haven't packed your luggage and you're already leaving?" Bei Yunj finally reacted. She had not brought anything back on the way here. Why did she start to lose her mind when it came to Hoshidu? "Assistant Sung, can you accompany me to get something?" Bei Yunj asked Assistant Sung, who was behind her. Assistant Sung's eyelids twitched. He did not expect to be implicated even when he was lying down. But fortunately, the man beside her let go of her hand and suppressed the low laughter in his voice. "Go with her to get it. Then, at the same time, ask around if there are any arrogant brats who are having ideas that they shouldn't." Before Bei Yunj could speak, the man said unhurriedly, "That way, I can be at ease. Otherwise, I'll have raised you for nothing." Bei Yunj, however. Along the way, Assistant Sung, who was following behind, was really paying attention to which member of the opposite sex took a few more glances at Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched, but she could not be bothered to say anything. She had been in the district for so long, but she did not know any members of the opposite sex, let alone get close to them. But when she was about to reach the southern district, suddenly, someone stopped Bei Yunj. "Student Pei, can I invite you to have dinner with me today?" Bei Yunj looked up and saw a delicate-looking boy with a red face and a bouquet of flowers in his hands. Trouble came as she wished. Before Bei Yunj could say anything, she saw Tsing Su's eyes full of condemnation, as if he was accusing her. She turned around and asked the boy, "Do you know me?" Unexpectedly, the boy's neck turned red as he said agitatedly, "Classmate Pei, you're amazing. That night, I can't forget you again." No matter how he listened to it, his words didn't sound right. Bei Yunj. What a mess. Not long after, Bei Yunj realized that the boy was probably talking about her hacking the system on the first day of the special training class. "Sorry, I have to go home." Bei Yunj smiled lazily and said, "My brother is very strict at home." Meanwhile, the office. "President Hua, this medicine is..." Zhong Shenglin was stunned when he saw the logo on the medicine box. Wasn't this logo exclusive to Luo Su from Continent K? I got someone to develop a new drug based on her physical condition. Huashidu handed Zhong Shenglin a business card. Mr. Zhong, you can take this for testing first. If there's anything else, you can look for him. Zhong Shenglin looked at the plain white business card. There was only a simple name, address, and contact information printed on it. He could already confirm that this was developed by Luo Su. At this moment, Zhong Shenglin realized that the young president of the Hua Group was even more complicated than he had imagined. Although Luo Su was famous in the medical field, he had always been in hiding. Almost no one could find him. Not to mention asking him to help develop drugs. P.S. I've been dealing with the plagiarism issue for the past few days. The lawyer and editor project team have been working nonstop and are not in a good state. Sorry, but there will be an explanation today. It's been hard on the editor. Next, I will update properly and slowly make up for it. It's still a slow process. End of chapter. Chapter 994. Zhong Shenglin wanted to say something but hesitated. He looked at Huashidu for a while and spoke in a probing tone. President Hua, why don't you give it to Guo yourself? Zhong Shenglin also felt that the man in front of him, whose identity was a mystery, was very dangerous to Bei Yunj. The man's slender fingers, which were holding the cigarette, paused for a moment before he casually stuffed the cigarette back into the cigarette box. Elder Zhong, I can give the young lady whatever she likes. If she wants to know anything, I won't hide it from her. But since she has her own path, I'll accompany and protect her. There was only one girl in his heart. It would not be too much to spoil her. Huashida's meaning was very obvious. If Bei Yunj did not intend to tell him, he would not deliberately ask. But if something happened, this girl would still be under his care. Zhong Shenglin's eyes flashed. He did not expect Huashidu to say that. On the other side, Assistant Sung followed Bei Yunj into the southern district. When he opened the door of room 102, his eyelids twitched. Initially, he had thought that with Miss Pei's background, she would definitely not be able to withstand the hardships in the district, especially when she was living in the same dormitory as others. But in the end, Bei Yunj's single room was comparable to a 5-star hotel. Others were suffering in the district, but was she here to visit incognito? There's only one suitcase. Bei Yunj pushed out a suitcase that was not full. Assistant Sung quickly went to take it. But in the next moment, Bei Yunj dragged the suitcase away and suddenly asked lazily, Assistant Sung, you won't really complain to my brother later, right? Assistant Sung was stunned. He used silence to respond to Bei Yunj's true thoughts. Bei Yunj. He was really planning to complain about her. Bei Yunj glanced at him lazily and explained patiently, I don't know who he is either. Assistant Sung nodded desperately and went to take Bei Yunj's luggage. Miss, let me take it. If Huashidu saw that Bei Yunj was the one who carried the suitcase back, he would not be able to keep his job. But then, Bei Yunj glanced at him and dragged her suitcase downstairs. Seeing this, Assistant Sung chased after her anxiously. His smile was uglier than his crying face. Miss Pei, you should let me take it. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer to Master Du. How are you going to complain about me later? Bei Yunj asked lazily as she dragged her suitcase with one hand and gently put on her black mask with the other. Assistant Sung. He could tell that Miss Pei was trying to drag him down with her. Assistant Sung, think about it carefully. I still hold grudges. Bei Yunj's eyes curved into crescents as she threatened him in a casual tone. The corners of Assistant Sung's mouth twitched. He could only bite the bullet and agree. Miss Pei, I'll listen to you. A short while later, when Bei Yunj walked to the door, she found Zhong Shenglin chatting with Huashidu. She raised her eyebrows. Elder Zhong. Zhong Shenglin glanced at Bei Yunj, who was walking over, and smiled. The matter has been resolved. Someone will come to apologize in a few days. The teachers in the special training department are also being investigated. Don't forget to come to the institute tomorrow. Bei Yunj nodded and replied, Okay. However, just as Bei Yunj finished chatting with Zhong Shenglin and walked towards Huashidu, Master Du, That's what I heard when I was over there. Bae Yunj looked up and saw Assistant Sung complaining. He looked very loyal to Hwashidu. End of chapter. Chapter 995. Then. The next moment, Sung-soo turned around and did not expect to see Bae Yunj looking at him with a faint smile. Just as Sung-soo was feeling guilty, Bae Yunj walked towards Hwashidu. However, suddenly, an excited voice sounded not far away. Brother Hwa. Bae Yunj subconsciously raised her eyebrows. In the blink of an eye, she saw a girl wearing a sheepskin coat with 2 ponytails waving at her. However, to Bae Yunj's surprise, Wen Jiwon was beside the girl. Are you here to look for your uncle? Hwashida glanced at the girl walking over and asked casually. Wei Huan was Hwashida's distant cousin. She had just entered high school and rarely saw her. Yes. Wei Huan nodded like she was pecking at rice. However, when she saw Bae Yunj beside Hwashidu, she immediately became alert. Who are you? Hwashidu had lived in the Wei family for a period of time. Wei Huan and Wen Jiwon had been neighbors for a long time, so Wei Huan had always felt that Wen Jiwon would be her cousin-in-law. But now, a beautiful girl suddenly appeared beside Hwashidu. Wei Huan's mentality cracked. Miss Pei is here too? Wen Jiwon suddenly asked. Yes. Bae Yunj replied nonchalantly. Sister Wen, do you know her? Wei Huan grabbed Wen Jiwon's hand and was a little angry. How could she get along with her love rival? Miss Pei is very nice. Wen Jiwon nodded honestly. Wei Huan. At this moment, Hwashida glanced at them and was not interested in interrupting. He only said casually, let's go home. Everyone could tell that this sentence was directed at Bae Yunj. Bae Yunj smirked lazily and glanced at the fuming Wei Huan calmly. Oi! Wait! Wei Huan suddenly called out to them. Brother Hua, Sister Wen and I didn't bring a chauffeur. Can we trouble you to give us a ride? Please. The girl blinked her bright black eyes and put her palms together sincerely. Up to you. After Hwashidu finished speaking, Sung-soo went forward to open the door for them. Brother Hua, get in the car first. Wei Huan specially squeezed beside Hwashidu and giggled. After all, she knew in her heart that no matter how undisciplined the men of the Hua family looked, they still had the gentlemanly demeanor engraved in their bones since they were young. Ladies first was a must. Behind her back, Wei Huan was still hinting with her eyes for Wen Jiwon to quickly come to her side. Later he would take the initiative to sit down. Unexpectedly, when Wei Huan turned around, she saw Wen Jiwon chatting with Bae Yunj. Wei Huan. In the car. Seeing that Wen Jiwon did not take the bait, Wei Huan could only follow her own thoughts and sit beside Hwashidu. But after he calmed down for half a minute, Wei Huan's body froze and she unconsciously turned her head slowly. Sure enough, she met the man's lazy and indifferent eyes. The danger was self-evident. This cousin of hers would never spoil anyone. Wei Huan shrank her head timidly and silently moved to the side, trying her best to give this person more personal space. Bae Yunj, who was the last to come up, saw this scene and could not help but smile. It was obvious that Wei Huan was quite afraid of Hwashidu. However, when Wei Huan saw Bae Yunj sitting in the car, she still pretended that nothing had happened and kept chatting with Wen Jiwon about her past with Wen Jiwon and Hwashidu. It was obvious that she wanted to exclude Bae Yunj. End of this chapter. Chapter 996. Bae Yunj leaned lazily and did not interrupt. Soon, Wen Jiwon also felt that Wei Huan was targeting Bae Yunj, so she did not continue the conversation. Wei Huan frowned. Sister Wen, why aren't you talking to me anymore? Suddenly, the man who had been silent all this while spoke casually. Wei Huan, there's a seat next to Tsing-Su in front. Wei Huan immediately shut up. Instantly, the surroundings were silent. Wei Huan pursed her lips and felt wronged. Bae Yunj saw this scene. She smiled and suddenly sat beside Wei Huan. Her beautiful and flamboyant eyes were unbridled, and her eyes were clear and seductive. She smiled lazily and asked, Little girl, do you want to change seats with me? It's quite cold today. Wei Huan's mind went blank. She did not understand what Bei Yunj meant. However, when she saw the empty seat next to Wen Jiawan, she instinctively nodded frantically and immediately walked to Wen Jiawan's side to sit down. But in the next moment, just as Wei Huan felt that she had escaped from the tiger's mouth, she looked up and saw that the person opposite her seemed to want to scratch the tiger's ear. "Brother, are you cold?" Bei Yunj asked as if there was no one else around. She sat close to the man, and the way her eyes were curved made people reluctant to say harsh words. Wei Huan chuckled. Her acting skills were clumsy. Did she really think that her cousin was an ordinary person? Huashidu had never shown mercy to women who took the initiative to approach him. Then, Wei Huan glanced at Huashidu and Wen Jiawan from time to time. As expected, the man glanced at her with his pale-colored eyes. His posture was lazy and noble, but he did not intend to pay attention to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj could tell that it was because of Tseng Su's complaint just now. She licked her lips and her eyes curved naturally. She touched the back of his hand with her cold hand. The girl's voice was lazy and seductive. "Brother, I'm so cold." Even when Jiawan's eyelids twitched, she subconsciously looked at the vixen opposite her. Not to mention Huashidu, even when Jiawan's heart softened when she heard this guy's voice. True enough. The man's fingertips moved. After touching the girl's cold hand, he reached out to hold it and took the initiative to ask, "How many are you wearing?" This scene almost caused the complacent expression on Wei Huan's face to freeze. Where did her cousin, who was not interested in women, go? Why did he have to care about this little demon? However, Wen Jiawan seemed to have expected this and did not even lift her eyes. 3 or 4. Bei Yunj saw that Huashidu took the initiative to talk to her, so she naturally reached into the man's coat. This scene caused Wei Huan's eyes to widen as his face flushed red. However, a certain someone in Pei Qian's heart didn't even blush as she hugged the man's tight waist. At this moment, what Wei Huan found the most unbelievable was that Huashidu actually acquiesced to this woman's actions. If it were anyone else, who would dare to reach their hand into Huashidu's clothes? This scene made Wen Jiawan's face burn. She had not expected Bei Yunj to be so bold. Big Brother's body is so warm. Bei Yunj took advantage of the fact that there were people around, and her hand even touched the man's tight abdominal muscles as if nothing had happened. The man glanced at her casually, his gaze full of warning. "Bei Yunj." Bei Yunj put her hand down obediently. However, Wei Huan saw Bei Yunj rubbing her head against the man's neck restlessly, and looking at her with a faint smile. Where did this vixen come from? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.